Early evening at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and we are preparing ourselves here in the Eifel Mountains, the Eifel Valley, for another edition of qualifying this evening, the first day of 4 across this Corpus Christi weekend. And you could argue that for those qualifying cars that are not yet into top qualifying for tomorrow afternoon, the first 15 minutes of this is going to be incredibly important, because it's only the SP9, the GT3 cars that aren't already in, that will get access to the full circuit. So much quieter than it's going to be for the following 3¼ hours. My name's Johnny Palmer. I'm delighted to be joined again by Joe Bradley and Ben Constant-Duras. Can't quite see the end of pit lane exit and that route towards the Yokohama S, but I'm sensing, chaps, it's going to be quite a long queue, Joe.
They're there. They're ready. They're ready. There are some teams that really have to get on this. None more so, perhaps, than the number 16, which is the Shira Sport Porsche. This is the car that we saw in the earlier session have that problem with the drivetrain. The team tell us that it's... From what it sounded, a little was lost in translation, but I'm taking it as the inner CV joint on the drive shaft, which is certainly what it sounded like. Ben, you did say drive shaft, didn't you? And you could hear the sound coming off the car on the from the onboard. So I think I'm going to give full marks to Ben, because it was a drive shaft in effect, wasn't it? The CV joint.
It was, and they were the only of our SP9 cars not to set a lap time at all. But we still do have SP9 cars, of course, outside of the possibility of getting into top qualifying, which will be our first session tomorrow. So we have to establish it tonight, because the top 15, top 17 positions on the grid will be set before the final qualifying session tomorrow afternoon. And then the rest of the grid will be set by a combined time, a combination of our 3 sessions, qualifying 1 earlier, qualifying 2 coming up, and qualifying 3 tomorrow. I still think, and I said this in qualifying 1, that the most important session will be this golden hour session, because it will be the fastest.
Yeah, we reckon that. A team that's really laid down a marker, though, with an 8-minute 14.1, 4.7 seconds quicker than anyone. It's the number 1 Audi, the Shira Sport Audi. That Audi had pre-qualified for the top qualifiers. However, it was kicked out of that because of a change of tyre manufacturer. It's gone from Yokohama's to Michelin. It's lost its pre-qualification place, so it has to get it done in these qualifying sessions. And what a marker that was, 8 minutes 14.1, 4.7 seconds quicker than anyone else. And that's, I agree with Ben. We usually will. We should see times going quicker this evening. It's going to be cooler. Just as the sun starts to go down, the track temperature reduces slightly, the air gets thicker. So we should see. I tell you what, though, guys, are we going to see it quicker than an 8-minute 14?
Yeah. We should be sub 8:10.
Yeah, true.
Really.
That's true. Especially in these conditions.
That time was set very early in the session. Don't forget, before we started seeing the yellow flags and the code 60s and the slow zones. And,
that's true.
And basically, the session only had 35 minutes worth of completely clear, full green flag running. The rest of the session, there might have been a yellow flag somewhere. You could have avoided that and got a lap time in, but we still saw some teams down we've got a Pro-Am car from SP9 down in 25th position overall. There's another one which is an AM car, but it's down in 38th position, but they are still an SP9 category car. The difference between 25th and 1st is around 20 seconds. So that could be a small yellow flag, and you could still improve on it.
But exactly the same sort of environment's going to ensue out there on the Nordschleife. This evening's going to be no different from this afternoon, when we did see a lot of truncated running.
I mean, that's the benefit of this first 15 minutes, is that hopefully, if nobody has an incident, then the track will remain clear throughout, and that's why it's so valuable for these cars that have not qualified yet. Remember, there are already 12 in, so they have their golden tickets in readiness for the 1 session tomorrow afternoon, and then there are a further 15 cars trying to snatch those final 5 positions within SP9. Remember as well that if you're already in, the 12 cars that have qualified, they're not allowed to take part in this next session for the first 35 minutes. Slightly bizarre number, but then I kind of drilled down into it and I thought, well, you're not allowed in the first 15 minutes anyway, and then it's the next 20 minutes. So it's actually 20 minutes throughout the course of the 2 days. Not allowed in the first 20 minutes of Q1, Q2 kind of, and Q3. And, you know, how valuable is Q3 anyway to those that have already cemented their position on the grid? Because you know you're going to be starting first or fourth or seventh. Will many of those take part in qualifying 3? We'll have to wait and see. Here we go, though, Joe and Ben. Here's the bomb burst, because the 2 Lamborghinis, the apt Lamborghinis, are heading out onto the racetrack. So they're on their Michelin tyres. Remember, there's a real big mixture of different tyre manufacturers as well. Also wriggling free. I think I spotted the number 55 Porsche. But this will be, presumably, just an outlap. You can't even afford, to be honest, to be wasting time doing a lap of the Grand Prix circuit. You want to do a flying lap and then start, an outlap, and then start your flying lap as early as possible, because 15 minutes with an 8-minute lap is going to go so quickly.
It absolutely does. Recalibrate your mind. It's not a conventional racetrack in any way, shape or form.
Well, think about it. It's exactly the same as what top qualifying is. It's 2 flying laps. So it's almost mirroring what we will see tomorrow afternoon with that session. The 8 minutes 20.643 is the target time to beat to get you through into the next session if others don't improve later on in the session, which they could likely do. So we're not going to establish who's in and who's out after this 15 minutes. This is just the cleanest running they're going to get, in theory.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough for anybody who doesn't set a time within this 15 minutes to then improve upon it, because of the reasons we've outlined. One of a number of Valkenhorst Motorsport Aston Martins now turning left. The other thing that I hadn't spotted, which you have to kind of go into the garage to realise this, but Valkenhorst Motorsport have a number of Aston Martins here. They definitely have a very pro car, which is the 34 car of Mattia Drudi, Christian Krognes, David Pittard and Nicky Thiem. Now, there's this partnership between Valkenhorst and Pirelli tyres, whereby they're working together. You go and stand by the 34, it's on Michelin's. Now, who says that been, I wonder? But clearly, the guys in that 34 car don't feel the Pirellis are going to quite match an Audi on Michelin's, a Porsche on Michelin's. So that's the black sheep of the family, if you like. And I just wonder whether the 4 drivers have got together with their engineer and said, we need to be on the French rubber to do well in this event.
Look at the entry list in front of us. It says Pirelli, so it was obviously another late-ish change.
And I wonder when that decision was made.
They're not one of the 12. I wonder if they had been one of the 12, they would have been booted out of it. Because if they'd run on the Pirellis, I'd need to check the records, but if they're on Pirellis during the qualifying weekend last month, it's the same story with the number 1 Audi. They've changed as well, also to Michelin from Yokohama, fairly late in the day, and now have to re-qualify for one of those 17 positions.
Their time from earlier on this morning was 8 minutes 19.8. It was only 1,000th of a second from the car ahead of it. And if you look at the timings from this morning session, all right, we had the Shearer Audi going 4.7 ahead of the rest of the field, but then in second place, the second quickest car is only just under 0.3 of a second. That second place car, the number 40, had already qualified. That's the Black Falcon Porsche. Only a matter of just under 0.3 of a second ahead of the number 98 Rover Racing BMW, who likewise was just under 0.2 of a second quicker than the 4th place car, which was the Dynamic GT Porsche, who was just under half a second quicker than the Falcon Motorsports Porsche, number 33. That's how close second all the way down to, where am I, to 10th. Just literally tenths of a second. Tenths of a second around this track. Tenths of a second in it between over 15 miles. Incredible.
Some of that's down to the amount of code 60 and yellow flags that were around, because obviously you're hampered to go at 60 kilometres per hour, in some places 120 kilometres per hour, so you're going to get quite similar lap times. But nevertheless, there was still quite a lot of green around the racetrack during that first session, so that's the sort of figures we're talking about. But as Ben mentions, we can still shave a good couple or 3 or 4 seconds off the times we've seen so far. And bear in mind, it was an SB9 Pro-Am car that finished second fastest earlier on today, the 48 Black Falcon Team EAE car in its resplendent gold and red colours. So this is basically an extension of qualifying 1. It's called qualifying 2, but all the times are retained on the timing screen from earlier in the day, and there's always the option to go a little bit faster. So that's what we're talking about, a combined session. We don't have to worry about average times, you know, adding the times together for each driver and then dividing by 3. Anything as complicated as that. It's sort of how Le Mans used to work, isn't it, before those hyperpole sessions burst on the scene.
Long drawn-out qualifying sessions, and the time could come whenever. And it wasn't very telly-friendly, which tomorrow's qualifying session is very telly-friendly, and the excitement mounting. And all right, it's a long. Again, we have to have a long session here. It's what, 3.5 hours this evening. It's the Nordschleife. It's the Nürburgring. It's the 24-hour circuit. It's 15 miles. So you know it might seem like 3.5 hours. That's ages. You've got plenty of time to get your time in. You really haven't. You've got, you only get maybe one optimised run on a set of tyres, really, and then, your second lap isn't going to necessarily be as quick as your first lap. And then factor in incidents on circuit, cars on circuit. This is a vital start of this session, and that's why we're seeing all of the runners getting out there while the track is as clear as it's going to be for the next 3.5 hours.
Christopher Hasse in the number 1, fastest in Q1. And out on circuit, right in the middle of the pack. The onboard camera sound, if you are following us on radio, is that of the number 1 Audi. And of course, because he's not officially through yet, he's out on circuit trying to set a lap time and also trying to improve that lap time. Kelvin van der Linde in the only BMW that we have, the Rover Racing BMW, is in the 98. Matteo Cairoli in the dynamic Porsche 54. Then from Q1 in 5th position, the 34 Valkenhorst Aston Martin of Matteo Drudi, who was on pole position at Le Mans in GT3 just less than a week ago. Jordan Pepper is in the Lamborghini Red Bull team at number 27. And then I stumble across the first of the ones I can't do off the top of my head. Marek Botman, thank you very much, in the 37 Pro Sport Aston Martin. Johnny, carry on.
Then we've got Dennis Olsen. I mean, talk about cool cars. The HRT 4 Performance Mustangs are just incredible. There's only 4 cars in that garage because the Mustang's such a massive car. They can just about fit 2 abreast at the front of the garage. Then you've got a little Audi S3 run by Family Net and Christophe Dupre.
Yeah.
So that's a cool car as well. I think John Hindhaugh mentioned earlier in the week that that's his favourite so far. And alongside it is a 3rd Mustang wedged into the back of the garage. And to be honest, they've been doing a lot of work on that. Only about an hour or so, an hour and a half to go to this session. There wasn't really a body panel on the yellow car at the back of the garage. They will have had to hurry to get that involved. And Dennis Olsen is at the wheel of the 64.
Johnny, don't forget that car stopped early in qualifying 1. It did have a problem out on circuit. No impact with the barrier, but it was parked up and dragged home. So whatever, I couldn't find out from the team what the issue was, but
okay.
As you say, it was pretty naked.
It was very naked, and that car then needing quite a bit of work. They're numbered in sequence, so 63, 64 and 65. The 64 car is predominantly blue, yellow for the 65 Mustang, black and silver, cool combination of colours for the 63. It's the pro car that we'll probably be focusing on, which is 64, driven by at the moment by Dennis Olsen, and also in that car due to be Arjun Maini, Frank Stippler and Yusuf Ovega of the Ovega brothers. So back across the line for the first time, Audi number 1 has reached the start finish. Christopher Haase doing, what time have we got for this number 1 car?
Well, no times yet.
No times because that was out.
That was an hour lap, of course it was.
Yeah.
So now we're going to begin the meaningful lap for a car that thought it was in, then it was out because of a deliberate decision. We have to think to change to what they think are better tyres at Scherer Sport PHX. And now with a lot of work to do. Kelvin van der Linde's Rover Racing BMW that finished earlier in the day 3rd fastest, ahead of the 54 Dynamic GT Porsche, and Matteo Drudi's Valkenhorst Motorsport Aston Martin. The other cars we missed, the 63 Mustang, which is being driven by Dirk Muller, So he's very much one of the pros in a Pro-Am entry. Marco Mapelli in the apt Sportsline Lamborghini. It's Easterland Racing's green and white Audi. Has Max Hoffer at the wheel. Maximilian Paul driving the slightly older Conrad Motorsport Lamborghini. So that is still an Evo version of the Huracan, but just Evo 1 rather than Evo 2, as the rest of the cars in this race are. And the 55 Hankook tyred and Hankook liveried Porsche being driven by Marco Holzer.
That was 10 minutes, now 11 minutes into the session. They are only going to get one flying lap before they are going to come across the line and be presented with huge amounts of traffic. Cars coming out, cold tyres, warming up, whereas these GT3 cars, these SP9 category cars, will be wanting to push on for a second lap and will be warmed up. So that second, this one clean lap is the only opportunity they're going to have for a clean lap. The second opportunity could be very, very busy in the early part of the lap. The first car on track, by the way, is the 54, which is Matteo Caroli. He is now heading up to the foxhole.
The number 1 has just gone through the Hatson back. Christopher Haase was the driver that put the number 1 time in this morning, the 8:14, and that was purely down to being out on the track in the same kind of conditions that we're seeing now, relatively clean. There's going to be no other cars, no other classes of cars out there, and this is where you earn your bucks as a pro driver. You are told by the engineers, you are optimized on that first flying lap. That's when your tyres are going to give you that optimum run, and you've got to deliver. And delivering around here is even a greater performance than what we see on a normal conventional track. And you know what? It's going to be interesting to see just how quickly he can go. He got a clean lap this morning. He's got a clean lap in front of him. He's got no real traffic ahead of him. And he's got quite a gap to the car, the number 27, that's ahead of him, and that is just off my screen. So it's on, it's very much on. It's the Red Bull Lamborghini Huracan, so he could well indeed catch that car.
All cars through Sector 1. Purple sector for Jordan Pepper in the Red Bull team at Lamborghini Huracan. All through Sector 2. Purple sector for Marco Mapelli in the other Lamborghini. That's the non-Red Bull App Sportsline car. Most coming through Sector 3 now, and the purple sector actually has gone to Patrick Niederhauser, who is the car without a time at the moment, the Sport Porsche. So the purples are being shared around as they continue to complete their lap. We've got small sectors, short sectors and long sectors, but it does look as though at the moment we are going to definitely improve on that pole position time. Provisional time 8:14.162 right now.
Niederhauser, very honest with Joe and I, because we asked him straight out who's going to do this first bit of qualifying too, and he said it will be me. He didn't have to be forthcoming as much with that information, but having come off the back of a double victory in the qualifying weekend last month, one was a sort of afternoon going into early evening race. The other one was a more conventional NLS time, actually started at 1 o'clock rather than midday, but 4 hours, both on the Saturday night and the Sunday afternoon. And those races served as actually rounds of the NLS this year. They don't always, sometimes they sit entirely separately. It's also served as a means of effectively qualifying for this race, or at least trying to get into that 12 that was selected via very fast sector times generally, rather than qualification laps.
Worth just emphasising, whilst permission for this first 15 minutes is allowed only for these cars that are out on track now, the session continues and times can continue to fall. It is not a case that these 15 minutes are all that matter.
True.
There's just the best opportunity right now to set it. Track conditions for sure will get better as we go later into the evening, but the track will be busier, and almost certainly, as we saw in Q1, there'll be a lot of yellow flags and slow zones to contend with. One slow zone is going to stop you from improving your time, as we at the moment have, 15 pro drivers out on circuit, nobody stuffing it in the wall, nobody creating a yellow flag, and therefore times continuing to tumble. Sector 3 fastest time continue to hold by Niederhauser. Sector 4 is only 10 seconds long, and Bockman fastest through that one. Sector 5, not everyone's through it yet, but Hasse through that one. So really completely different across the sectors.
He's gone purple in Sector 5 as well as Christopher Haase. Marco Mapelli, though, he's gone quickest purple in Sector 2 and Sector 6. So they're gonna produce lap times very, very close to one another. They're each robbing time from one another in different parts of this track. Pepper, for instance, he was quickest in sector 1, but he's bright green all the way through. Already traffic becoming a factor out there.
Well, no, that's an SP9 clearly either making a mistake or deciding that this lap is not going to be better. Because
is that the 54 dynamic car which runs on Pirellis?
Backing out of it.
It is, yeah. Getting out, but right on the racing line at Brunchen, which really wasn't helpful for the car in behind. By the way, the rest of the timing screen is now starting to flood with other classes of car because we're at 16 minutes past 8. And now all of a sudden the pit lane is open to everybody. If you're wondering where Patrick Niederhauser is on the timing screen, you've got to look all the way down to 133rd, because remember this is a combined session, and that number 16 Porsche didn't set any times earlier in the day because of a suspected drive shaft related issue, which the team have obviously managed to fix now. Patrick Niederhauser about to put a first meaningful time on the board for the day, full stop.
Leading cars coming onto the Dottingerhoe now. So that's the gap between the rest of the field, who are all flooding onto the Grand Prix circuit, and our SP9 cars. We are going to start seeing times tumbling and provisional fastest times being set, because the Lamborghini now leads the Porsche. You're right, it was the Matteo Cairoli driven dynamic Porsche that got out of the way, and his 6 to 7 no better than he's managed before. Actually, no, it's still an improvement. So green sectors across the board, and other than that, purple sectors, we're going to see all improved at the end of this lap.
Marco Mappelli into Tiergarten, then Hohenrhein, that little left-hander which links the Nordschleife proper with the Grand Prix track. Normally, if you're on a tourist lap, you would turn right and start a fresh one. But Marco Mappelli's about to cross the line in the 28 and will go top. So fastest of the day with an 8:11.6 for the Italian at the wheel of the apt Sportsline Lamborghini. Jordan Pepper will back that up with another Lamborghini good time, 0.6 of a second slower, 8:12.2. Chris Haase goes even quicker than the Raging Bulls. So it's an Audi to the top with an 8:10.5. That is much more like it, Joe.
Wow, that is more like it. 4 seconds quicker than he went this morning. And now we're seeing where we should be. And just shows just how classy these drivers are. All of the drivers at the top of those timing screens, they knew they had to deliver on that lap, and they have. It's going to be interesting. There's so many factors now going to come into play with the rest of this session, and you're going to be very, very lucky to get a lap like that again. Very lucky.
Niederhauser into 5th position. Van der Linde improving its time, but staying in 6th. An improvement for the number 7 of Conrad Motorsports Lamborghini. They go into 7th position, but it doesn't look like any more of our SP9s can improve enough to challenge Haase at the head of the times. 3 more come through. HRT into 7th. And who is it? Muller into 10th. So the 2 HRTs running together, actually. Matteo Cairoli, no improvement, stays 12th, and certainly is not qualifying with that. Drudy up to 4th position now.
Even costing you time on the Grand Prix Strecker part of this 24H configuration here at the Nürburgring. That can cost you dearly when you are absolutely optimizing every single braking point, every single turning point. And now that we've got a very crowded racetrack, it's debatable, guys, whether we're going to see that sort of time again. You're going to be looking at the tracker. You're going to be looking at the track as to when you're going to release your car, because you can get past some of the cars a lot easier than perhaps some of the 992 Cup cars that are very quick on the straights, perhaps not as quick through the corners because of a lack of aero. So you're going to have to manage this really well from the pit wall.
Don't forget what we've just seen in those first 15 minutes are the opportunity of 5 cars getting into top qualifying tomorrow. Those 5 cars then: Christopher Haase, Marco Mappelli, Jordan Pepper, Mattia Drudy, and the 5th machine, the number 37 of Marek Bachmann. Niederhauser missing out, Hoffer missing out, Olsen, Van der Linde, the only BMW not getting through into top qualifying.
The number one into the pits, by the way, Hasse coming in the back door, so to speak, having crossed the line. He's jumped out of the car, he's handed over the car now. And into the pits also has come the number 37, the Pro Sport Racing Aston Martin. That's currently 5th with a time there, its quickest time, 8 minutes 14.6 there. And Niederhauser in, the number 16, finally putting in a representative time in the Shearer Sport Porsche, 8 minutes 15.5. And that car now in the pits for what may be a driver change.
So the shock in all of this is the fact that an SP9 Pro-Am car, admittedly with a very pro driver, has managed to squeak into those top 5 positions as things stand. That's the 37 Pro Sport Racing Aston Martin, which is on the Goodyear tyre, and Marek Bachmann, who's sharing that car with Nico Bastian and Stephen Palette, might have just squeaked a place. And it means that the Shearer Sport Porsche, which is an International GT Challenge entry, is potentially not going to be in the shake-up for top qualifying tomorrow. Also missing out, as things stand, the 84 Easterland Racing Team Audi, and the only BMW in the entry. And Calvin van der Linden's pitted. Now, the 2 Lamborghinis have stayed out, thinking it's still relatively quiet, perhaps. Why don't we push for another, even though they're occupying 2nd and 3rd places, and that would get them in? Whereas the only BMW doesn't want more of it at this stage. And have we included the Ferrari into this so far? Yeah, the 45, the only Ferrari in the whole of the entry, is already in, so therefore wasn't eligible for the first 15 minutes. That's the realised Condo Racing with Rinaldi car. I'm just surprised that van der Linde, maybe Patrick Niederhauser, they didn't stay out and push on for another lap whilst the track it's not quiet anymore, but it's not very, very busy.
I'm not sure why Jordan Pepper stayed out. Maybe he's continuing on to just see what the tyre wear was like after that quick lap, and now he's being held up by traffic in pretty much every area. He's only gone personal best in sector 4. Everywhere else he's gone much slower because he's tripping over the slower class cars everywhere he goes.
Here's a theory though: tomorrow afternoon you get 2 laps, so isn't it useful to know what the tyre wear is going to be like on the 2nd lap
that
around?
Might be just what they're trying to look for.
But the other thing is, top qualifying is done on full fuel, so you brim it, you have to brim it, and then
it's not complicated enough, is it? I mean, you know, let's just really complicate it.
That is designed to be as fair as possible, because the balance of performance has been worked out. You know, there will be different fuel tank sizes, but if you start everybody on full tanks, it's theoretically a fairer way of doing it. So will they have filled that car up? Probably not, because they're looking for a quick time within this 15 minutes. We're now outside that 15 minutes, but the start of this session in that way is not going to be like top qualifying tomorrow.
Jordan Pepper was 13 seconds back the last time through a sector, even if that last sector of 35 seconds was better than he'd previously gone through it. He has had to come through a couple of BMWs and he has had traffic, so 13 seconds slower than he previously managed. That would then massively drop him outside, put him into 17th position overall. Interestingly, that BMW, the only BMW entered into the top class for this running, 7 seconds, over 7 seconds back from Christopher Haas's time. In an Audi, let's not forget, is possibly the oldest GT3 homologated car that we've got, and is pretty much out of customer support. There's a little bit left, but not a lot, and customers are turning their direction elsewhere because there's not that support for the Audi anymore. We have, why have we got a purple sector at the top? Is that a change of driver?
That is a change. No, that's a change. No, that's still the number 1. I think it's gone purple on our timing screen because it's the quickest time still.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's actually an improvement. I think it might be because Winkelhock's gone back across the line. So he did an outlap around the Grand Prix circuit and then completed that on the Grand Prix circuit. And the way that the timing system works, it's flashed it up again. But that's still, for me, the Christopher Haase time, just because Winkelhock has taken that car over, but it hasn't done an extra lap yet. In fact, its sector 1 time this time around is 7 minutes, which indicates a pit stop in the middle as well.
On board once again with the Red Bull team at Lamborghini that runs in the DTM with Jordan Pepper. It's a beautiful livery. He's now on the Dottinger Hoe and running easily running past some of the slower traffic. Interestingly, looking at some of the top speed times with Peter McKay earlier on, the GT3 cars are running very similar top speeds to the GT4 cars and even some of the TCR cars. They're within 5 to 10 kilometers an hour of each other. Why? Why is that? Because the GT3 cars run so much more downforce and can run more downforce, meaning more drag, whereas the GT4 cars and the TCR cars really don't have much to play with. They are as they are. And so coming to Lappery along the Dottinger is actually not as easy as you would have first thought for those GT3 spec machines.
The Ovega-driven 64 Mustang has suddenly popped up. I'm not sure it was there initially, but I'll check when that time was set in the 64 Hout Racing Team Mustang. It's still only 8th place, so wouldn't get the Ovega-driven car into the Magic Top 5. So that's Yusuf Ovega sharing with Stippler and Miney and Dennis Olsen. And that car going 8th fastest now in the predominantly blue livery with a little bit of yellow detailing as well. Mühlner Motorsport have 3 cars entered into this year's race. The instantly recognisable sky blue and white livery of the Belgian squad, and one of their cars is now motoring its way into Tiergarten after Antonius Bucher underneath the bridge there. Very, very busy, in fact, for the McLaren, and a BMW trying to overtake it into Tiergarten. Also in that little group is the Conrad Motorsport Lamborghini, which has Maximilian Paul driving it, 10th fastest so far, but that surely won't be an improvement for Max because he's got so much traffic up ahead of him and just hit a wall of rear wings there. Needed to get out of the throttle at the last moment. But some teams are changing drivers, as Marcus Winkelhock still trying to wait to see whether he will head on to Hatzenbach, chosen to do another Grand Prix lap there in the Scherer Sport Audi number 1.
It's the top 5 that we're focusing on here, and just outside that top 5 is the number 16, the Patrick Niederhauser car that was didn't produce a lap time. That is their first flying lap there, so they need to get a little bit more speed from the car. They've got a change of driver now at the wheel of the 16, and that is the, and I've lost him off my sheet. It's Feller. What's
Ricardo.
It's Ricardo Feller. That's now been given the task of getting that car into top qualifying, and we'll just keep an eye on its sector time, still out there, just starting the run. But that's where the action is. The action is the top 5 currently on the timing screens. They are the 5 cars that are going to join the already 12 cars that have qualified into top qualifying tomorrow.
So target time then is an 8:14.6. Not much different to the very fastest time we saw in qualifying 1, but the target very much moved then. And of course that target is for those at the moment that sit from 6th position down to 13th. The car in 12th position doesn't care so much about that target because they are already in there, the fastest of those that have pre-qualified into top qualifying, with number 48 of Dan Arrow, which are still yet to allow to be out on circuit. They're still waiting for those last couple of SP9 cars to be allowed to enter the track.
Yeah, so if you're a fan of the Manthey EMA 911 Porsche, or Grello as it's so well known as, the mixture of green and yellow, that car also is not eligible for the session until we get 35 minutes into it, so that's about 6 minutes away. And then there'll be another big entry of cars from the pit lane, which will be all the rest of the SP9s who are legitimately allowed to take part. And then the problem for those that aren't already in, so Patrick or Ricardo Feller in the 16 and downwards, it's going to get even busier out there and perhaps more unlikely to find that window within the traffic to get better timing, and it's going to be so frustrating. However, this time within Q2, and if you don't make it in the time in Q3, shouldn't be wasted, because you can still decide a grid position from 18th down to 27th within the rest of the SP9s. It's just that they'll be gridded in that order that you finish in qualifying 3.
And we've got our first yellow flag, I'm afraid, over at Schwarzenschwanz just coming on to the Dottinger Ho. It's the 382 machine that is stopped. And that will be one of the two amazing Toyota Yaris's. I don't know if you've poked your head into that garage, but they are stunning pieces of machines. The Toyota GR Yaris DAT concept cars. Both got two cars. They've both got the same drivers, so two opportunities for all the drivers to participate. And they are amazingly prepared, but unfortunately it looks like one of them is stopped.
Well, they're Toyota Gazoo Rookie Racing is running them, and underneath, if you peel back that sticker, it's KCMG. Matt Houseman's team is underneath that sticker, and they are very experienced at going endurance racing, aren't they? So yes, like you said, Ben, very well put together. Now that yellow flag's become a slow zone in that area, just through Schwab and Schwantz, and that is towards the end of the lap, just before that section, just before you get onto the Dottinger Ho. And the car that has come to a halt looks like it's off track, so it's off to driver's left, and well, there's nowhere safe. I was about to say it's parked safely. It is, because it's on the grass. However, we'll still be needing recovery for that car if he can't control alt delete and get that thing restarted.
But we're not going to ever get a chance on our broadcast to look inside those cars, but they are so stunningly built and prepared, and there's so much technology. Of course, the bonnet itself can't really package anything more than the engine that's already in there. So they've had to put everything else racing related into the back of the car, and rather than it being beside the driver, which traditionally you see all the electrics kind of right beside the driver for weight, they obviously felt the need to put it at the back because there's so little weight over the rear axle of the car. So a lot of the electrics and all the sort of peripherals have been moved further back.
All the management systems, with all the looms coming off it.
And I think that's to try and settle the rear down on that car.
It could well be, and just to give it a bit more of a balanced weight distribution, and also accessed via the hatchback.
Easy.
So easy to get in there rather than squeezing into the passenger area of the traditional way.
They also are running a Supra as well, so they've got two Yaris's, and there's also an entered Supra which is equally beautifully prepared. That's the 110 machine. That does have a different set of drivers.
Yeah, but as you've mentioned, probably interesting that it's an identical quartet, both in the 109 Yaris and the 382, which is the one we're concerned about at the moment. Daisuke Toyoda is at the wheel of 382, joined by Maurizio Hiroka Ishiura and Kazuya Oshima, and they're going to be featuring in both of those cars. Well, I suppose it's useful to know precisely how a Toyota GR Yaris handles.
And Johnny, do you know who Maurizio is?
Go on.
Mr. Toyota himself, the president of the company.
No way.
Aoki. I can't say it now. Akio Toyoda.
Okay.
Yeah. And who is a massive motorsport fan.
He would have raced here before, sure.
I would have thought so, yeah.
I think he has, yeah.
Over several years.
Yeah,
well,
that's
that gives you just an indication of how important this race is.
Well, that gives you an indication of how passionate the guy at the top is, and that's why we see Toyota Gazoo Rookie Racing here at the Nürburgring 24 hours.
I don't know who Daisuke is, though, whether it's a son or a brother, but he is the least professional of those of that lineup. The other two are Super Formula drivers.
Or another company board member.
Or with the same name. Yeah.
But Super Formula drivers normally come in here to race in a Toyota Yaris.
Yeah, no.
I just love that.
Yeah.
Classic Nürburgring 24 hours, isn't it?
Not as much downforce.
Possibly not.
Yeah, not as much grip through the corner.
I mean, there are some real nuggets further down in the entry list. I don't know whether you've spotted yet in a TCR car, Nathaniel Berton, who's a regular racer in LMP2. 2 years ago, he was in the Glickenhaus at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And the Frenchman, who is certainly far more at home behind the wheel of a Le Mans-type prototype, now in TCR land. And he's certainly not the first to sample a hatchback-style car with heritage elsewhere at Le Mans. I remember Matthias Besch turning up in a Renault Clio many years ago. It's just like, what? But they don't care, because if it's a racing car and they can work out where the grip is, where to unleash the power.
They undoubtedly take the racing line with their supermarket trolley through the cold meats and into the fruit and veg.
Yeah, but we all do that.
Need to shave a bit of time through there.
In the TCR alternative fuel category, We've got Sebastian Vettel's brother, Fabien, who is a regular here. We've got an all-female car by W&S Racing, which includes Fabian Vulvend, who's probably the most famous of those drivers, although you may have heard of Kari Schreiner as well. And Johan Kristoffersen, I bumped into in one of the garages, the only, was it, 7-time World Rallycross champion and a 3-time winner of the TCR World Championship back in the day when it existed, including a race here in a TCR car when TCR was a support race to the 24 hours. So very much looking forward to racing there. Only problem is sharing a garage with Tom Coronel. And he said it's so distracting, as you can imagine.
Tom is a top guy.
Well, we happened to bump into Tom Coronel yesterday.
I can't tell you what he said to me when he saw me.
He made a beeline for Adam Christodoulou, who we were chatting to at the time, totally ignored Joe and I. And then we went, oi, what about us? And then he realised, flung his arms round us and said various expletives.
Yes.
Which is generally the way that Coronel rocks, isn't it?
It's a traditional Dutch greeting. Yeah. Of course.
So some good laps coming from further down the order, including the 502 rear-wheel drive GT Tyre Motorsport BMW. That is a pretty major change in VT2 for 2025 in that they've grouped the four-wheel drive cars in with the front-wheel drive VT2s when previously they were with the Heckentriebs or rear-wheel drive cars. So VT2 front and four-wheel, and now the rear-wheel drive cars are on their own, if you like. So got lots of BMWs in the Hecker class, 330i's. What else have we got? Another 330i. In fact, it's predominantly those cars. There's a 328i BMW as well, and the Toyota Supra from Nordique Racing for the number 520. Cup 2 is going to be incredible at the start of the race, because Cup 2 always leads the second group of cars from the off at 4 o'clock. Remember, the field is so big this year, although we have lost one or two. On the latest count, it's 135 that started the session earlier in the day, but still separated into 3 different groups. The first group will have all the SB9s in and possibly a few other cars. Then the Cup 2 start in the front of Group 2. Group 3 is just come one, come all. It's a mishmash of all kinds of categories, with generally the Subaru Technica International WRX car starting right at the front. Rover Racing BMW now back into pit lane. They're going to be pretty disappointed. 9th fastest so far. And are they going to find the necessary gaps to break into that top 5 in the remaining time in this session?
Well, at the moment, no, because we've still got that code 60 to recover the Toyota. It is the only area where we have a code 60. We do have a yellow flag at Flansgarten. Is that a different incident then? No, that is earlier. That's introducing you. So you'll have a yellow flag to cover the entrance to the slow zone, and then you'll have the slow zone. That's all now clear. So back to a green flag circuit, and opportunity therefore, if you are in the middle of a lap where you're improving, to continue to improve.
Question is now, the engineers will be having to try and pick little gaps here and there as to when is the best to release their car. And if they don't find a gap at the first time of asking, you've always got the option of going around the Grand Prix circuit. But it's like, I don't know, it's like a pinball machine. Just trying to find that whirly thing.
Just look at the tracker,
and you'll miss it.
Just look at the tracker, Johnny, and and it's not just about putting your car out, of getting your car out of the pits into a gap, because that gap's going to disappear. It's monitoring which cars are going to be ahead of you, whereabouts you're going to, and that. You might as well just put a lottery ticket on, because it's going to be like rolling the dice, At the moment, the cut-off is at 8 minutes 14.6. That's Nico Bastian in the Pro Sport Aston Martin that holds that covetous 5th place, and the final qualifier into top qualifying tomorrow night. Just outside of that remains the 16. It's the Shira Sport Porsche still. 8 minutes 15.5, so that's a full second that car's got to find, and that car's out there.
It doesn't necessarily matter for the top qualifying, but I do think we're going to see an improvement here from the number 14 machine, which is setting green sectors throughout its lap, its first lap. Now, this is a car that has been held back for the first 35 minutes, so the Mercedes team Bilstein Get Speed machine is now out on track with Maro Engel aboard, I believe, and we are seeing green sectors for quite a few of those IGTC cars and those pre-qualified SB6s, SB9s. So they are going to start getting themselves back into the mix of those cars that we saw setting times earlier. Doesn't matter, because all those times will be reset come tomorrow morning. But interesting that even if we do have all the cars on circuit now, there is still the ability to do some improving.
And there's still a bit of heat in that sun, and there's areas of this track that's still in full sunshine, so that hasn't begun. They have not begun to cool down. The track temperature is still high, so the car's performance could still be a little bit quicker when the sun drops a little bit lower. It's usually just on that sun hitting the horizon. The air gets cooler, the track gets cooler. There's a lot of this track, especially out there on the Nordschleife, that's shrouded in shade because of the trees and the proximity of the trees to the track edge. So we are seeing a fundamental reduction in track temperature. I wish I had a tyre engineer in front of me who could tell me exactly what that was.
Track temperature?
Yeah, have you got that?
Standby caller.
Okay. It's going to continue to, I'm not going to say plummet, because we've had a very, very hot day. It's not going to plummet, it's going to slowly cool down. It's going to slowly dissipate that heat. There's nothing like tarmac that retain heat. It's quite an insulator. But we are going to see, I think, improvements pretty much all of our SB9 runners are going to go quicker.
84 Easterland Audi taking plenty of curb through Hatzenbach on its previous lap around. This car then not currently in the top 5 in this session, it's 7th. Simon Reicher is at the wheel at the moment. So this is a standard SP9 lineup. It's not Pro-Am or Am. You've got Christian Kleen in this car, Norbert Siedler, Max Hoffer and Simon Reicher. So an all Austrian lineup for the Austrian crew, and a very smart paint job indeed. Almost bringing back memories of the previous race winners of this event, which was the team with Lant in the name, and I can't remember the rest of it now. My mind's gone blank, but stick with me and I'll try and recall that. Meanwhile, Mark Basseng in his 830 Hyundai, the Hyundai Elantra NTCR, heading down the hill towards the lowest part of the circuit, which is a secondary point where you can enter through the tourist light, the tourist laps rather. So bright shite at the bottom of the hill, snaking its way. A lot of these corners for me though, Joe, on the sim at least, look similar to others, and I think, oh, I'm there now, and still you haven't quite reached the Tankstelle at the bottom of the hill in this valley. No,
and there's a lot of off-camber corners in this section that Mark Basseng is on at the moment, and then you've got that flat-out run out of here up the hill. It seems to just sap the motor towards Bergwerk through the fast sweeping left, and then the right-hander of Bergwerk. Heavy braking here and down changing through Bergwerk, the right-hander. That's the area where Niki Lauda had that infamous accident in the 1976 German Grand Prix. And then he's got that run-up, hasn't he, from Bergwerk all the way up that flat-out stretch towards Uracht, through Kesselchen, Klostertal, towards the carousel, of course, where he will take all the speed off. But it just feels like the uphill section, even in the GT3 car, just saps the power. You can hear your revs dying off as the incline takes all of that punch and that power to get you up the hill.
Now, didn't Nico Menzel a few moments ago have a little moment coming out of Adenauer Forst?
It was a little nudge.
Was it?
With another Porsche ahead. Just exiting a corner, the one ahead didn't quite accelerate as he expected, and there was a little knock on the door to say, let me pass.
You were right, it is his son, Toyota's son. So
Toyota.
Suzuki, Toyota.
Yeah.
So Daisuke
Akio's
is
son.
in the car and stranded out on the racetrack is the son of Akio.
Yeah.
Excellent. And the Easterland Audi is reminding me of the Lant Motorsport car that has gone so well in the past, because that's often green and white, although Lant not entering a car this year. Audis, well, there's a reasonable amount of them, 4 in total within the GT3 category. They're not the most numerous, though. We've actually got as many as 7 Porsches from all sorts of different teams, 2 from Falcon Motorsport, remember, 4 Aston Martins in the SP9 category, 3 Mercedes AMGs who have already qualified. So all 3 Mercs are already into top qualifying for tomorrow afternoon. There are 4 different Lamborghinis. One of them is an SP9 AM entry, though, from Renazzo Motorsport team. 4 Audis. The Scherer car, the Jutta car, which is Pro-Am, the Equipe Vitesse, which is AM, and Easterland's a full Pro lineup, as I've mentioned. Just the 1 Ferrari, just the 1 BMW, and then those 3 Ford Mustangs making their debut for HRT.
Eng, in the end, did not improve his lap time. 4 seconds off the 8:20 that he's managed in the previous session. We are still waiting to see the 48 finish their lap, and the 33 that we rode on board with. The 33 now comes across the line, and there's no improvement there.
Oh, in the fence somewhere, the 945 Porsche Cayman. That shot a little bit too tight at the moment for us to identify fully where it's happened. It's Hatzenbach, and this is the other Renazzo Motorsport team Cup 3 Porsche. So it's in a very similar livery to the 786 Lamborghini Huracan, and they're running another AM lineup. So is there some fluid down in Hatzenbach? It was in behind the BMW and has lost the car and then clanged into the barrier, but also where the tyres start as well. So it's done quite a bit of damage to the front of the 945 car early on in the Nordschleife lap. So it's close at the wheel of this Cayman, an all-Cayman class, remember, Cup 3, with a mixture of Pro and AM lineups. But I would imagine we've got certainly a yellow flag and maybe going into a speed-restricted area.
Where was that, Johnny?
Hatzenbach. And a little bit...
Nothing yet. Okay. Nothing yet appearing.
Unless he's been able to drive away from that, and I'd be surprised if the Porsche makes it that far. But it was an unusual incident. I just wonder whether there was a line of fluid in behind that BMW. It's auto close in the 945 718 Cayman GT4 Club Sport, to give it its full name. There's actually a Japanese driver in that lineup as well, in Koichi Okumura, and it was down in ninth fastest of the Cup 3s so far. But my timing screen combines the pros and the AM cars rather than splitting them apart.
So all of those cars that were prevented from being out on circuit for the first 35 minutes, they all went and tried a lap. We only saw one improvement, and that was from the Kondo Racing Ferrari, the number 45 machine. That did manage to improve at the hands of Thomas Neubauer, up to 15th position overall. So just already a car that's qualified, so it's not a massive significance. But Kelvin van der Linde on a lap now. He's still not going to improve. He's 12 seconds off the fastest lap time. That's 5 seconds off his best lap time. But possibilities of green sectors throughout the 9-sector lap. So there is still time to be had for some of those that didn't completely maximise their first half an hour.
So over the line will come Kelvin van der Linde in the 98 Rover Racing BMW, as you say, about 6 or 7 seconds off in the only Bavarian GT3 car here. There's loads of BMWs in all the other categories, of course.
Oh yes, and just to answer your question earlier on, in qualifying 1, you noticed that the Rover Racing machine was entered under a different name. Let me get my notes out, because Rover is an oil manufacturer, right? And therefore it's the sponsor of the car. We've always assumed that that's therefore a team, but actually it's not run, it's not a team as such. It is run by Motorsport Competence Group AG, who have been around for about 20 odd years. They're the team behind the brand. Right. The brand Rover Racing, but actually the team, Motorsport Competence Group, I'm not sure they've ever entered a car under that name, but it is their entrance name.
Yes. Although interestingly, now the latest entry list has come out, they're back to Rover Racing again. So cover that up, push the main name under the bed, and everyone will recognise.
There's lots of teams underneath the team name that we, if they came clean and say, take like the Scooby-Doo cartoon, they pull the mask off and it's, aha, it's really you. There's lots, and it's really hard to keep a tab on.
Well, remember 2 years ago when Fricadelli took that incredible win for what was at the time a new Ferrari 296. There were an awful lot of Rinaldi guys running that car on behalf of Fricadelli with their limited experience with Ferraris, whereas Rinaldi, who are here this year as well with the 45 Realised car, they're experts. They sound very Italian, Rinaldi, but they're actually German, and probably choosing a Italian-sounding name for obvious reasons.
I think Grello might get an improvement on the time here. We're on board with Kevin Estre, who's at a purple sector right in the middle of that. That's the short sector 4 of just 10 seconds long. That's the purple. The early part of the lap, good. There are yellow flags and slow zones, but I think they're behind him on the lap. Estre, again, another car that is already qualified, sits down in 21st position with a time of 2:23.7 from earlier on, and he's now on the Dottinger hose, so avoiding all the slow zones and yellow flags behind. We should see an improvement, but he's still 5 seconds off the ultimate pace that we've seen in qualifying so far. That shows just how hard this is to get those lap times when you don't have a clean track.
Have we mentioned the slow zone out of Arenberg up through the Foxhole, or down the hill through the Foxhole towards Adnar Forst? Slow zone coming in through the Foxhole, which is those sweeps, those left and right sweeps where you just straight line between the curbs. It slows down at the bottom of the hill before it starts climbing back up, and I'm not quite sure. We've got the number 945 showing static
so
in that area. Right, so that has made, so we thought that was it. We thought that was it.
I'm pretty sure he crashed at
Hatzenbach,
and he's carried on around.
He's carried on and got as far as the Foxhole down the hill.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to just describe that whole incident to you again and be absolutely sure it wasn't further around, but it did look initially for Otto Close as if that car was semi-drivable. It might have compromised the wheel arches on the right-hand side because he clanged into the barrier, but then actually caught the very end of the tyre wall where it begins, and that's a softer landing than it might have been had it been concrete or more Armco barrier. So it's limped its way that far around, but might now have compromised its tyres perhaps on the right-hand side.
Kevin Estre doing Kevin Estre things, improves his lap time and goes up to 6th fastest on a very busy track, just 4.7 seconds off the fastest lap time, and it puts the Manthey Porsche number 911 up into 6th spot. Again, these times do get wiped, but if you are a fan and watching IGTC, the Intercontinental GT World Challenge, he is now the fastest in that category. Porsche represented with 7 cars in IGTC, BMW obviously just the one, so a massive advantage that Porsche have, and they are at the moment 1st, 2nd, 4th, 5th, 6th. Not bad.
He's gone 6th. All that means with regards to tomorrow night's top qualifying, he's pushed the first non-qualifier for that session down to 7th.
Yeah.
It's not really going to be a factor. The number 16 Porsche that needs to go quicker he's still chasing at 8 minutes 14.3, and it's a full second that he needs to find.
And it doesn't even affect the order in which they run in that top qualifying session, because that's drawn by lot.
Yeah.
So one would assume perhaps that if you went faster, that would give you a better running position, but actually that's not the case. It's completely random, the running order of top qualifying.
Isn't that what they do in rallying?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
qualifying and then reverse
stage.
it. Yeah. Well, actually, in rallying it's a bit silly because they do a qualifying stage, and that then gives you a running order for the draw of where you want to start, and then you draw your starting position.
Right, so it's still a bit of a lottery then.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, no, not really, because if you go first, then you have the opportunity to pick the starting first. Right. And then you decide whether if you're on gravel, you're starting last, or if you're on tarmac, you're starting first. So you have more control.
Right. we digress.
Is there a Grello door mirror now sitting on the road just off the Yokohama S, or perhaps from another yellow car? It might be from a Renazzo Lamborghini, potentially, but bright yellow.
Carbon fibre as well, so it costs a lot. Get that back to the team as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
Might only need a new glass.
So that might indicate that it is an SP9 car that's lost the door mirror, and if Kevin Estra's willing to, well, I was going to say he's willing to push, certainly he is, but having set that time, which puts him theoretically 6th in this session with an 8:15.3, was he that eager to push again at the start of a Grand Prix lap that ultimately ended in the pit lane, because the Frenchman's now there and back with the team. Grello are not in a luxurious position compared to others. They're having to share a garage as well. A garage not shared with the Rover guys, but Rover, wow, are doing a lot of work now to the front of this car.
Yeah, that's not just a bit of a service for this session.
Is that a big setup change, perhaps, that's going on there?
We are seeing that could well be, but we're not seeing any kind of tracking gear or any laser tracking gear out there, or any corner widths, any scales to where the car...
Not yet, but the bumper's off.
Not yet, yeah.
The bonnet's off, the wings are off, all the attention's on the front end. Looks like they're playing around with the steering arms and suspension arms. And
whether he's damaged something.
Well, you do ride the curbs well here, don't you?
They're not replacing the nose. They've taken all the front bumper off, and the first job was to actually start cleaning it again.
Yeah, so giving it access then to the suspension components of the front end.
It's got to, the front bumper's got to come off. So while it's off, you might as well clean out all that ducting. That affects the airflow to your radiators and your oil coolers. So you're going to take the opportunity while you're off, that is off, to do something else. You're going to take the opportunity to completely service that front end as well.
Joe, you've seen racing drivers talk without being able to hear what they're saying. Calvin van der Linde there in a slow-mo describing what happened.
Bit of a loose moment, I think, is what I got from that.
Down the hill,
yeah,
it compressed, turned in,
swivels his shoulders, outlining. He got a bit sideways. Kelvin's quite a good driver when the car's sideways, though, I've found.
News on the 97 machine. Do you remember that was on fire at the very start of qualifying 1? They've taken that car back to the factory, wherever their factory is, and they will be working on it from home and dismantling it and bringing it back for Q3. That's the idea. So obviously relatively serious. They thought it might be an engine failure. They had an engine for the GT3 997 car here, but presumably if the team is relatively local, they prefer to go to the workshop and do the work there.
That SP7 car was initially entered under one of the driver names, Julien Ria, but it now doesn't have a driver, or doesn't have a team name at all. Julien Ria, Valentin Lachenmeyer, Mark Trompeter and Ralph Charles are its 4 drivers, and Julien was at the wheel when maybe that brake was snatching and caused a fire, or perhaps they are concerned about whether the fire has then done some damage to the flat 6 that sits at the rear of one of the older Carrera Cup 1-make cars.
You were spot on with your identification of where on the track the 945 Porsche 718 came and went off, Johnny. Its issues started at the Hatzenbach. Tried to continue with suspension damage and got as far as the bottom of the foxhole. So you were spot on with your track identification this early in the week.
All these years of doing NLS races, you see,
it's paid off. Look how useful in life that is.
I'm not sure necessarily. You wouldn't really want
we're fond of you.
If a pub quiz has an NLS section to it, then get me there, because
if I had a pub class,
it'll be a pub around here. Probably tomorrow night, won't it?
There's an idea.
There'll be a pub in Adenau that will be doing a pub quiz about Nürburgring. Get us down there.
We're at the top of the hour, gentlemen. We've had, have we had a full hour of running, or just a few seconds off?
If you count the opening 15 minutes, it was for the select few, then yes.
Full hour. So let's have a quick rundown of our class leaders, the fastest in class. So we know all about SP9 and the SP9 Pro-Am, which is the number 48 Black Falcon team. They are quickest in SP9 Pro-Am. The SP9 Pro class being led by the 33 Falcon Motorsports entry. Cup 2 is being led by the number 948, the 48 Losch Motorsport by Black Falcon. Max Cruz Racing, the 644, currently fastest in AT2. SP Pro, that's the number 347 Nordic Racing. Door Motorsport, the number 59 in SP8T, that's the quickest in that class. The quickest in AT3 is the number 19 Max Cruise Racing entry, the number 19. SP4T, that's the T for Turbo. The Subaru Technica International Car 88, that currently is quickest there. It's the Hyundai Motorsport Target Competition, number 830. They are quickest in the TCR class. And then in Cup 3, we've got the 959 numbered SRS Team Sorg Rensport. SP10 sees the 175, the Pro Sport racing car. SP7 is the number 70 Black Falcon Team Zimmerman entry. Toyota Gazoo Rookie Racing, the number 109, is currently leading SPT2. SP2T. SP3T is the number 303 Hyundai Motorsport Target Competition entry. BMW M240i is 658. No team name there, just the team number, and it's currently being driven by Yukison. And then another entry without a team name being driven by a driver by the name of Kruppen. That's car 414 leading V6. And the final of the class leaders is the number 520, the Nordic Racing. That is the current leader, or fastest I should say, in VT2 Hector.
Ricardo Fenner absolutely flat out now down the Dottinger Hoor in his number 16 Shearer Sport PHX Porsche.
That challenge he's making on getting into top qualifying was completely destroyed at the Vauxhall with that slow zone. Now he needs to build up pace and optimise this next lap, because time, dare I say it, time's running out. We're inside the final 2.5.
We are green though, and we are getting very close to that golden hour, aren't we? Before the light starts to fade. I'm always amazed at how fast people drive in twilight and in those early sort of night hours, even if it's very hard to see. Somehow, because they just know how to get around this circuit, almost blindfolded, they are still able to set great lap times. And there is, whilst it stays green, time to do it. We've nearly had, the stats say that we've had 6 minutes of code 60 and 1 minute of yellow and 53 minutes of green. Whether that's true or not, I'm not sure, but that's what my stat computer is saying.
Maro Engel now driving the number 14 Mercedes. So this is the entry from Get Speed. They're down in 17th position, but as I already mentioned, all three of the AMG GT3s have pre-qualified. Engel through Flugplatz, Kittelbacher Hoor, and now on towards the very fast left-hander at Schwedenkreuz. Arenberg is the harder stop into the right-hander and then underneath the bridge. Beautiful scene right in front of him then for the Bilstein liveried Mercedes that thunders its way out of Arenberg and down into the foxhole. You can watch from that bridge. There's a sort of semi-public road there. It's more of a dirt track which goes across the racetrack, and then just, if you get up on your tiptoes, see them disappear, thunder their way downhill en route to Adenauer Forst.
It is so stunning, isn't it? This time of night, in this area of the world, whether you're at Spa or the Nürburgring, this area is just stunning. And let's not forget, Spa is only around an hour's drive away from here. The low sun of this evening, it's not necessarily going to be compatible with being able to see for these drivers when it's in their eyes, but it is beautiful for photos and images.
The Ardennes is part of the same forest. The Eifel forest is part of the Ardennes forest. The only thing that differentiates is the German-Belgian border, isn't it? So one mass of trees.
A lovely area to visit, whether you're motor racing at the Nürburgring 24 hours. I hope there are fans that are doing both. Like literally going from here, rolling over to Spa for next weekend. There are, we think, 7 drivers that are doing both. Interestingly, there is one driver that I've been told who is doing 4 24 hours in succession, because Mattia Drudi is taking part in the Fun Cup race at Spa the weekend after.
There could well be a few of that.
Punishment, isn't he?
Yeah, I ran Maxime Martin for a Belgian team back in the day. And
In Fun Cup?
In Fun Cup. Christa Dula was in the team that Trustwell and I were part of. There was another superstar as well.
The thing is, they're all built by WRT, so there's a link between professional WRT BMW drivers and the Fun Cup. And, you know, I fancy a bit of that on my weekend off. Vincent Voss will find you a seat.
Slipstreamer, that one. Slipstreamer.
Yeah, that's 160 cars around a 7-kilometre circuit. This is 135, it seems. Around a circuit
similar,
4 times the size,
similar,
double the size of Le Mans.
Maro Engel now showing green sector times in the first 5, and a purple sector time shines brightly out at sector 6. He has got 3 more sectors to complete the lap in the number 14.
Well, he's got a Cayman that he's got slightly caught behind there, was able to navigate it with not too much of a problem. Doesn't look like there's a huge amount of traffic in front of him to contend with for the end of the lap, but there's a lot of greens now coming onto our screens as the circuit goes back to fully green flag racing, and an opportunity, as we said, the golden hour. This is it. This is the time to improve those times.
It's also the time that the visibility when you're heading into the sun disappears completely.
True.
Especially if you're catching flies. And Maro Engel now for the Mercedes AMG team gets speed. They are currently way down the order. They haven't really shown 17th place overall.
What does he do here? He's got 3 cars, 3 wide on the Dottinger Ho, all pretty much travelling around the same speed. And as we said earlier, the GT3 car not that much faster in a straight line than many of the other category cars. So we're actually looking at a Ford there.
Well, that's Arjun Miney, who's just a bit further up the road than Maro Engel.
But he's not closing in at all on those 3 ahead.
Didn't seem to be. And now he's got a real problem, because in the braking area, this is where the Mustang makes up so much ground. But when does he hit the throttle? Because he's going to have to go left of one of these BMWs. Remember, slightly compromised on the main straight anyway, because a section of it is coned off, and that's the bit where you can return on the Grand Prix track. So 64 over the line, Arjun Miney, and God, he was pretty close to improving, you know. He was just about a second off in the end, and that was probably the delay, rather, that he suffered in Tiergarten.
And Engel being held up for the second time that I can see in this lap. It didn't really cost him any time in the previous sectors. I'll be amazed if it's not going to cost him any time in sector 7 there. He's got another slower car to get through. They're at the Kleiner Carousel, as far as I can make it. Yeah, Kleiner Carousel just out of there now and heading towards the final stages of the lap, out towards Galgenkopf. The left, the right-hander onto the Dottinger Ho. I forgot that name for a second.
Good knowledge.
Here he comes onto the Dottinger Ho, fastest part of the track.
And 11 seconds gone. 11 seconds up the fastest time.
Yeah, lost it in sector 7.
Where is that sector? He's just off our...
Pete McKay sent us a lovely screenshot of the sector on the...
Yeah, so he did a 2...
Sector 7 is from the...
It's a big one.
Rise up towards the carousel all the way to the entrance onto the Dottinger Ho.
He did a 2:31, and the fastest through there's a 2:25. So he did lose a big chunk of time behind those cars that we saw. Now to the end of the lap, and maybe still an improvement. Engel's down in 17th position, 9.5 off the fastest time, so could still improve. Let's see. No.
He was already at 8:17 by the time he was snaking his way through Tiergarten and Hohenreich.
We perhaps should add that it's irrelevant to qualifying, because the number 14 is already in. We just got a bit excited seeing all those green and purple sectors.
True. The other thing that I just noted is that they've got a new fastest lap in SP10, which is for the GT4 cars. Door Motorsports 169 Aston, being driven by Sven Schadler, is now top. Now, can you remember back to when you did the update on the hour, Joe?
Yeah.
Where the 169 was the quickest GT4 SP10 car, or is that a new name at the top of the charts? It was 175, wasn't it? But I've got 169 now, fastest.
Well, that might not have updated, Johnny.
Fine. Well, Sven Schadler, Door Motorsport, now quickest in SP10. And remember, there's no shootout for the other categories. It's only GT3/SP9 that will have the top qualifying session. Can be a mixture of Pro and Pro-Am cars, and you can even get in with an AM lineup as well if your Pro within the AMs is quick enough. From what I've read, if an AM gets in there, it'll kind of be treated like a Pro-Am car just for that session. It makes no odds, really. And the thing is, it's going to be a shake-up in terms of the grid, because you wouldn't expect an AM car to be able to perform, let's say, in the top 10 throughout the race, but it will have an opportunity potentially to start from 10th position if the qualifying time is good enough.
Now, mate, it's been listening to you.
So you've refreshed, and 169 is now the quickest SP10.
Yeah,
excellent.
yeah, the Door Motorsport car is quickest in SP10.
News on the Toyota GR Supra, which is the rookie racing entered machine, the 110. They were found to be speeding under a code 60, and we spoke in qualifying one just how seriously race officials take any discretions under yellow flag and code 60. They will have to start from the back of their group. So regardless of what they do in qualifying, they're put to the back of their group. They are in which class? I can't remember now, the 110. But either way, whatever they do qualifying-wise, it doesn't matter.
SP2T, the two Yaris, but I don't know. Have you got a list of where
Which
those
groups?
Yeah,
Of course I have, Johnny.
It's on this bit of paper over here, isn't it, Ben? I'm going to guess they're in the third group.
So
purely because
there's something
down below
last. Yeah.
Yeah, stone last. But it's going to be a fun time for all of its four drivers to work their way through the order. There's only one direction you can go in, from the back of the grid, I suppose. Just ask Kevin Estre from Le Mans last weekend. Meanwhile, a couple of the Schnitzelalm Mercedes being run from the same garage, and I popped my head into the SR Motorsport by Schnitzelalm crew to ask precisely what Schnitzelalm is. My suspicions were that it was a hotel or a restaurant, and indeed it is a restaurant in the Hinterland area of Germany. As Mirko Bortolotti watches on, he's again behind the wheel of a Lamborghini, keeping an eye on the 27 and the 28 cars within this session. He drives the 27 Red Bull Team Apt machine.
Well, Lamborghini had this kind of issue, didn't they, at the end of last year, whereby they had contracted all these drivers to be WEC and IMSA drivers, and then suddenly all their programs were pulled from WEC and the hypercar program, but the drivers are still there, so they've had to use them, and it does mean you see the likes of Marco Bortolotti, Marco Napelli popping up. We had Eduardo Mortara in an SRO GT World Challenge Asia race in a Lamborghini, thanks to Lamborghini. It's incredible. They've got this capacity of spare drivers just to be throwing at it, and that's what Bortolotti is part of, and therefore, with that, part of their DTM squad.
It's great for us, because, you know, you tune into a fairly standard race meeting, I suppose, where you don't necessarily expect those stars to be thrown at a race. But as you say, otherwise they'd just be sitting on a simulator, maybe, in the Lamborghini cafeteria, playing pool, waiting for their next chance.
That is what they do when they're not, they're all just staying, a bit like Emirates air hostesses, they have to stay in one building and they only get released when they go racing.
And the Lamborghinis sit outside in this garage with the doors open, ready, and as soon as the phone rings, right, we're off.
Like Fun and Sam.
That's what I'm picturing. I don't know what Bortolotti means, but in my mind it's something to do with the emergency services. Anyway, we'll move on. Very busy for that run out of the Vidal chicane and into Sabine Schmidt's curve, including for one of the Aston Martins, which is, by the look of things, an SP9 car. Could have been a GT4, I suppose. Grello briefly back on the racetrack, and that was an 8:22.6 last time around for Kevin Estre, who's now looped around the Grand Prix circuit and straight into pit lane. So will Estre give anybody else a go in that car tonight? Bearing in mind, feels like Patrick Pilet's had quite a late call-up to be piloting that car with Thomas Preining and Ayanchin Guven. But Patrick Pilet and Kevin Estre were paired up for the qualification races. It was a double header last month, a Saturday race and a Sunday race, and Pilet joining up with his fellow Frenchman. We were kind of thinking, is that an idea to use him in the 24 hours, even though his name wasn't on any of the cars at that stage? And now he's been very greedy because he's in the 911 and the 16 Shearer car.
I know there's 2 hours and 15 minutes of this session left, which feels like a long time, and plenty of time to just cycle those drivers through the Hyundai Porsche, the 911. However, 2 hours at the Nürburgring disappears very quickly when you're cycling your drivers through, and they're on the cusp really of having enough time to cycle another 3 drivers through when you consider that how long Estre's been in the car.
Danny Yucadea has just been having a go in the number 27 Lamborghini. It's entered the pit lane, so is there a suggestion that Bortolotti might not be too far away from taking over? He was standing at the front of the garage, but the race suit was off to his waist. We have had Jordan Pepper in that car. If you're just joining us, part of this session is to identify 5 cars that will be eligible to step forward into top qualifying tomorrow afternoon on lap speed. And very early on in the session, on the first flying laps, we might have already established those 5 cars. The number 1 Audi of Scherer Sport, the 27 and the 28 Lamborghinis of the Apt racing team. One's called Apt Sportsline, the other one is Red Bull Team Apt, with the dark blue of Red Bull, making that a very smart livery. And then 2 Aston Martins, one from Trinity Solutions, brackets Valkenhorst Motorsport, and one from Pro Sport Racing. That's more of the surprise entry at the moment, because that's a Pro-Am car driven very well by Marek Bachmann.
And for all of the other classes, at the end of this session, we'll have a provisional grid, because tomorrow we've got qualifying 3, where everybody can have a go at improving their grid position, their start time for the race on Saturday. So provisional grid being formed this evening. However, still another qualifying session for all of our other classes to come tomorrow as well.
Just a few notes on the circuit based off what has happened since last year. There has actually been a few little changes and tweaks in certain areas where they have decided to resurface. So Adenauer Forst is now a different tarmac to last year. The big change was a curb change there into last year's race, a curb that grew so that you could no longer ride it, whereas you could before. There's also been resurfacing at Brunchen, which has raised the tarmac level up, which has allowed you to get onto curbs that you previously couldn't. The curb hasn't changed, but the tarmac has got higher. And finally, Flansgarten 1 has been resurfaced, but 2 has not. So you now have a change of tarmac between Flansgarten 1 and 2, which apparently, according to some of the drivers, is a little unsettling, because you now really do have 2 different grip types in effectively one corner.
Well, Flansgarten is where the cars take off.
Yes, exactly.
That classic. Yeah, so are you taking off from new asphalt and landing on the older stuff?
I need to have a look to see where 1 and 2 is, but possibly.
That's slightly concerning in that, you know, you're airborne, and then as you land...
That's a good point.
You've got to try and slow the car, settle the car from... I mean, you might all of a sudden recognise that asphalt from years ago, so that's actually maybe where you're more...
Hello, old friend.
Well, hello. I'm still much more at home with this stuff.
Well, you're still going to just... If that is the case, and you're taking off from one surface and landing on the next, you're not really going to feel it. It's just how that surface feels when you need to use the brake. So you're not really. It's kind of an irrelevance to a point that the surface you've just launched from is different to the one that you're going to need to brake on. So you're just going to know that you need to brake at a certain point and feel the grip through that part of the track. Whether it's a new tarmac is kind of like out of it, but it's a good point actually. I think it might have had a different influence if it was perhaps going to be a wet race, because the water on tarmac or on different textures does have an effect on how the wet tyre works. But that's not going to be a factor this weekend.
We have quite a significant car off or stopped around the Callenhard area, which is the 46. That's an SP9 car. That is
48.
in the wall. That's
48, yeah.
48, sorry. And that's a different car in the wall. No, that is the 48 car in the wall. So we now have pictures of it under the tyre stack and into the Armco barrier. It was Kaya aboard the Black Falcon Pro-Am leading car. And actually that car was doing quite well in his hands earlier on. The Moroccan driver, Moroccan flagged driver at the very, sorry, not Moroccan, Turkish flag driver, Mustafa Kaya. But I'm afraid he is going no further, and we do have code 60 around that area now.
Yeah, going into this session from earlier on, the 48 car had actually got up to second place in qualifying one. I never did establish who'd done that time, but it might well have been Gabriele Piana, the Italian, or on some entry lists he's Swiss, because I think he's right on the border there near to Lugano. But that's a Pro-Am car, so Mustafa Mehmet Kaya, as you mentioned, at the wheel at the moment. Ben Boonagel, who's had loads of success over the years in Cup 2 Porsches, and Dan Arrow, lovely young Dutchman who Joe and I were meeting for the first time yesterday when he was getting the driver changes done. I think they were sorting seat fittings as well. Arrow is not his real name, but it's fair to say it's a lot easier for us English people, British people, to say than his real Dutch name.
He's translated it for us, hasn't he? So
yes.
to make our jobs easier, thankfully.
Yeah, his surname is spelled P-I-J-L. So it's pronounced, I think, something like Pio. So Arrow is a lot easier to say because in Dutch, P-I-J-L
means arrow. Yeah.
So thank you, Dan, for helping us out with that.
And we weren't pronouncing his first name correctly as well. Dan, how do we pronounce your first name? Ah, yes, it's Dan. All right, so we're saying it correctly. No, you've said Dan, and it's pronounced Dan. We've relived that moment, haven't we? That's not the first time
some other friends from
that
the
we've
Netherlands.
struggled with Dutch names and Dutch pronunciations.
Well, we didn't
just
think
slightly different.
We didn't
to
think
how
we
we
were
say it.
struggling, but clearly we were.
Yeah, it's Dan, isn't it? Dan.
Hey.
Lovely young lad. Yeah, didn't come from a conventional route. Didn't come out of karting. He sneaked a license under the guidance of one Kurt Euser. Sneaked the license and did his first car race at 13. Then he was discovered to be 13 and kicked out,
you can
basically.
only be 15.
Yes, you've got to be 15 to get a racing license.
Oops. But it's working for him, and he has high ambitions. He wants to win just about every 24-hour race going, starting with this one.
Yeah, without any... I mean, it's very rare these days to have a young lad come in without any karting experience whatsoever and to start with cars, and that's the route he's taken.
Yeah, he was
very quick.
Racing with Abby Eaton in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo a couple of years ago.
Right.
Become a gun for hire, actually, because he's now in the GT World Challenge Asia Championship racing for the South Korean team that race in there with Hang Ming Wang. And that is in a Porsche. And he should be in a Porsche here, although that Porsche is in a wall right now. There's another Porsche going slowly. I noticed this on the Dottinger. That's the 44 Falcon car.
I thought it was going to be a puncture for Dennis Marshall, but it does look like all tyres are still inflated. Falcon tyres on the Falcon Porsche, surprise, surprise. Now, he can't get across the pit lane because pit lane's not open for those cars heading out of Hohenrhein, so he's still going to have to do a full lap of the Grand Prix track. Does that engine sound healthy?
Yeah, it's just running low revs. He's just cruising back. I don't think it's the motor that's his problem. He's just running it like...
They're not changing gear, though.
He's not. Yeah, that was my next guess.
He's not changing gear. No, he's nursing the car home, isn't he?
But is it stuck in gear, or is there a gearbox-related issue? Falcon tyres seem fully inflated on the left-hand side. They look okay on the right too.
That's kind of a diff transmission whine that you're hearing there. That was the kind of the high-pitched whine that you heard, and that's the normal noise.
Yeah.
Rather than
when
electric motor.
Slowly. What?
Rather than an electric motor, which it also sounds like.
Well, it kind of does, yeah, it does, yeah.
Falcon with high hopes to finally take victory here at the 24 Hours of Nürburgring. They've always had these two Falcon liveried Porsches. A pretty wholesale change in driver lineup over the last couple of years. They now have Alessio Piccarello in the 33 car. Julian Andlauer, Michael Menzel and Sven Muller in that car. It's a car that actually won in the hands of Alessio and Dorian Boccolacci in NLS, was it 1 or 2? I can't remember. But one of the earlier rounds was won by this car. The 44 of the car we're watching is Marshall, Schuring, Heinemann and Boccolacci himself.
Luckily for you, I was just checking some NLS results, so I've just found the result for the 70th edition of the ADAC Westfalenfahrt, which was the start of the year. And it was a 1-2 finish for the Volker Porsches, but actually a win for Sven Muller and Maurice Schuring in car 3. They're numbered 3 and 4 in NLS races rather than 33 and 44 as they are today. Dorian Boccolacci and Nico Menzel finished second in that first race.
So it must be 2 then, where Pecorello and Boccolacci won.
Hang on.
Or maybe I'm making it up.
No, you're spot on. Yes, Boccolacci, Picariello, winners in car 3.
So hang on, so Falcon have won NLS 1 and NLS 2. No wonder they're feeling buoyant about the 24 hours.
Yeah. And remember, Porsche have won everything going so far in the NLS races and the 2 qualifying races as well. NLS 3 was won by De Grello Manthey car, where they only had Ayanchen Guven and Thomas Preining in the car that day, so no Estra, no Patrick Pilet. Then we moved on to the 2 qualifying races that doubled as NLS 4 and NLS 5. And if I scroll through to those results, it was a win for the 16 Porsche, so another Porsche, Patrick Niederhauser and Laurens Vanthoor, and they did exactly the same thing in race 2. So of 5 races so far, all of 4 hours in duration around the Nordschleife, it's Porsche winning everything.
Yeah, one thing, winning a race over 4 hours, completely different ball game, isn't it? Winning over 24. However, they've come in as one of the cars that we consider a favourite, for want of a better term. The good news is he has managed to get that Porsche back to the pit lane, and he just files on the pit lane. Now that's a transmission whine that you can maybe hear in the background. And he's now at his pit apron, and a very crowded pit apron it is. That would do my head in if I had to work under those conditions, but that's quite the norm here, isn't it?
The dolly jacks will automatically go underneath this car. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be put in the garage. It's just in order to spin it to 45 degrees to make the exit as comfortable as possible. In actual fact, they will be pushing it into the garage, where a few more engineers, mechanics can look at. Oh, will they? No, there's not the space in actual fact to put the car into the garage.
There's not, and there's very little work going on as well, considering he limped that car home from quite way off in the lap. Came off the Nordschleife onto the Grand Prix track and made his way around. Now the car gets pushed back into the garage. Now we might get some indication and some information as to what the problem is. The car is currently down in, where did I spot that? 19th place for the Falcon Motorsports entry. And in a couple of minutes, Johnny, I'll give us an idea. I'll give the listeners and viewers a rundown of the top 5 of which are our 5 qualifiers going through to tomorrow's top qualifying. And that is quite an important part of the SP9 class here. All the other classes, I'll reiterate, all the other classes are meanwhile forming their grid for the race on Saturday. At the end of when tonight's checkered flag flies, that's just still a provisional grid. We've still got one more qualifying session for everyone. Yes, the top qualifying places, they'll be sorted, but for everyone else, improving your grid position is very much up for grabs tomorrow.
Carlos Rivas is currently at the wheel of the provisional pole sitter, let's call it, in Cup 2, with a session still to go at the end of this one. But that is the 948 Cup 2 car, which is the entry from 48 Loesch Motorsport. So connected, in fact, to car 48. Don't get that confused with 48 in SP9. There is also a 948 with the same sponsor. And remember that Mustafa Mehmet Kaya was in the tyres the last time we checked. BMW, that was being looked at quite significantly on the front end. They were maybe doing some suspension revisions whilst the nose of that car was off, but it's all now back together, and the Rover Racing BMW could be about to rejoin qualifying 2. Oh, bit of a moment for the 54 dynamic motorsport Porsche at Hatzenbach a few seconds ago. That's on Pirelli tyres, and thought there was a gap underneath one of the lower category cars, and all of a sudden the door started to close, so there was a big squirmy moment for the car driven by Joel Sturm.
Full-on squeeze that was, wasn't it? Trying to make the Porsche a little bit more like a Cayman than a 911 GT3 to get through.
Yeah, I reckon his heart rate went up a little bit there, didn't it? Or quite a bit. We're at the top of the hour. Oh, sorry. We're at the bottom of the hour of the clock, but we've 2 hours to go. Our current qualifiers into tomorrow night's top qualifiers are currently the Shearer Sport Audi. It's currently got Luca Ludwig at the wheel of the car, and that is currently fastest with that 8 minutes 10.5, which came very, very early. It was the first lap out, wasn't it? The first optimum lap, the first lap out of the pits. Second at the moment is the number 28. That's the Abt Sportsline Lamborghini, 8 minutes 11.647. In third place, the 27, that's the Bortolotti Red Bull Team Lamborghini, 8 minutes 12.2. In fourth, the number 34, Valkenhurst Motorsport Aston Martin. It's got Krognes at the wheel of that car. Its time, 8 minutes 14.493. And then right on its tail, the Pro Sport Racing Aston Martin Vantage, the number 37, that's got an 8 minutes 14.600. And the top five are at the moment those 5 cars that we've just mentioned.
The target still the 8.14.6.
Hasn't changed, has it?
To get in if you are not pre-qualified into top qualifying.
So it was mentioned there, Joe, of Christian Krognes. Now, he's an interesting character in that he's going to be racing 2 different Aston Martins over the 24 hours. But then there's that tyre mixture. So he's going to race 1 on Michelin's and 1 on Pirelli's. You're going to have to certainly have in the forefront of your mind which car you're driving at any one point.
That is a research mission for us tomorrow, Johnny. I want to know from Christian or the team if they're able to tell us what difference in if any do you have to drive those cars, because you might be able to push on the Pirelli unlike or vice versa. You know, and we need to know that, because he's going to have his head. He's going to need a badge and a little flip calendar on the dash to tell him what tyres he's on.
Now in a Pirelli car.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So I can't go hard through the corner. I can't spin the wheels coming out of the carousel.
Traditionally, the Pirelli tyre has a much softer sidewall than most other marques. Michelin, for instance, very hard initially to get working.
So the softer sidewall will not like to be leant on.
Yeah.
You can't really, on the initial turn in, you're going to have to be a little bit more gentle with the car. If you turn in too aggressively, then you're going to really load up the sidewall, and it's going to turn into jelly if you're not. And that's what I mean by the tyre going off, perhaps.
So the Pirelli car he's sharing with Oliver Soderstrom, the Swede, fellow Norwegian racer Anders Buchart, and Nico Handke of Germany. And then the 34 car that went pretty well earlier on in the day, 6th fastest in qualifying, won. This is considered very much the pro car, with Christian driving it, David Pittard, Nicky Thiem, and Mattia Drudi, who was on pole position last weekend at Le Mans.
Checking in with the Lincoln Co. TCR machine, not running in the TCR class because it is running in an alternative fuel, and therefore runs in 83, I think, or 82. And it's quite interesting that whole team is the Teamworks team that are very well known in China, but they're not bolting on any Europeans to help them out. They are the full team flown over from China for this race. It's a team, actually, that Rob Huff invested in a few years ago, good few years ago now, and had a lot of experience driving with them in the Chinese Touring Car Championship, and put a little bit of money in. But there isn't Lincoln Co. people, there isn't European people. That is the whole team travelled over. They are calling it an exciting adventure full of jet lag and time change. But great to have Lincoln Co., which is at the forefront of TCR as a brand. Probably the best, most supporting manufacturer of TCR these days. They have 4 works drivers in TCR World Tour, which actually is happening this weekend, so they can't be here. But It is a Chinese manufacturer of vehicle owned by Geely, with plenty of partnership with the Polestar organisation.
I'm going to say, because their headquarters, Lincoln Co., I think, are in Sweden.
Yes, exactly. So the old Polestar team became the racing arm of Lincoln Co.
I know nothing about their road cars other than...
You've had a hire car,
they
surely?
look great. No, never.
You've never had a hire car?
Never had a Lincoln Co. hire car.
Oh, they're about.
You've been out to the Far East a bit, though.
I've been around, yeah.
Yeah, you've been around a bit. Yeah, they look great. There was this SUV. I was stunned by it. What is that? Oh my goodness! It's a it's a Lincoln Co. So they are big manufacturer in the Far East, and it is, Ben, I've got to say, brilliant to have them here competing.
Big Code 60 still around the area in which we saw the Porsche go off, because they're having to fix the barrier as well. It's the car went underneath the tyre stack. Obviously, hopefully the tyre stack doing its job in absorbing the impact, but unfortunately the 48 car did end up underneath it. So we've removed the car, but now we have to fix the barrier, hence why we do not have full green racing.
And that's significant insofar as we're not going to see any improvements.
Yeah.
We're not going to have anyone challenging those top 5 currently whilst that job goes on. So it's kind of nullified the qualifying session somewhat.
The golden hour is a bit more sludgy yellow.
The golden hour is slipping away. The gold is slipping. It's liquid at the moment and it's slipping through our hands.
Well, official sunset is around about 10 minutes' time. It's 13 or 12 minutes to 10 o'clock. Sun very large in the sky and inching its way then towards the horizon.
You can see it moving. If we stay here long enough, we'll actually see it set.
This is the
doesn't
point.
make good radio, though, does it?
This is the point when our executive producer Tim Gray says it's not the sun moving, it's us.
Oh
The
yes,
sun stays, that's where it is.
yeah.
But yeah, whatever.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, Peter Mackay, who's my producer behind me, has been very helpful. Just wants to remind us, Marcello was on a quick lap before that slow down.
Yeah, he was.
And then this is what I mean. It's like we're not, we've got this challenge coming, but it's then just been like, stop.
But
later,
the message from his engineer will be, OK, you've got a yellow at Metzgersfeld, there's a code 60, but I want you to push in all the other areas that they are legal to do so. And that's why he's not hanging around in any of this traffic on the run up the hill towards Style-Strecke, which is where many, many years ago the track used to continue straight. And I think you and I have walked that in previous years, that really steep incline up towards Hohe Acht. And then when the cars became faster and faster, it was just unsafe to continue with the track there. So that's the reason why the Caracciolo Carousel was built. So it zigzags up the mountainside via that concrete strip, which is just unbelievable. And sometimes, when we've got cars nose to tail, there's a bit of a decision to make sometimes. If you've got back markers in the concrete, is it actually quicker to go around the outside on the flatter surface?
You were never supposed to go around the concrete. That was a drainage area.
That's true.
You're supposed to go on the tarmac. And Caracciolo pioneered just putting the car into the ditch. Into the concrete ditch and going round the ball. And you can see a picture of racing cars, and all right, geeks like us can probably tell you what track it's at just by the scenery off to the sides, but it's indistinguishable. The carousel, you see cars back in the 70s, Grand Prix cars, back in the 50s, the likes of Fangio, Mike Hawthorne, their cars pitching through the carousel ball, just phenomenal spectacle. And that year we went up there from the inside, Johnny. It's not exactly slow through there as well in the GT3.
No, to stand part way down that little straight that comes out of the entrance to Style-Strecke as was to the carousel, they're still pulling through the gears before they hit the brakes, and to stand at the braking point and realise quite how fast they're approaching the carousel itself is phenomenal. So I hope you've either in previous years or this year get the chance to do that. Still, the recovery of Mustafa Mehmet Kaya's number 48 Porsche is taking place, so the ADAC flatbed is there, and now they're assessing what's left of the tyre wall after it was moved up by several feet. Has it compromised the Armco barrier in behind the tyre wall? It doesn't look too bent out of shape actually, but Armco has got to be vertical, so they've got to make sure that those struts in behind haven't been weakened in the process.
Well, the truck that's coming into play now that the car's been recovered on a flatbed an intervention vehicle just escorting that car. Now the workers arrive with the high-up to pull the tyre barriers back into position. They've got big chunks of Armco that they can bolt on and off. And like you said, Johnny, where the car has gone in may not have been the area where it first contacted, because there's a chunk of tyres missing, or whether that's been dragged away. Yes, as it's hit the tyre wall, it's dragged the tyres away. So we're going to have to drag the tyre wall back into line and then put it straight, because at the moment it's at a 45-degree angle to where it should be. And they're well equipped, the crews here at the Nürburgring, with high-up cranes and the like.
That whole barrier has been dragged, I would say, 3 tyre lengths to the left, and by lifting it, that's not actually going to do anything. It's just going to, you're going to lift it and then place it down, and it's going to stay exactly where it is. As you say, Joe, it needs to be pulled back.
Yeah.
They almost need to reverse that truck back.
It's like a ruffle in a carpet.
Yes.
You can't push the ruffle down. You've got to pull from where the carpet begins. So you've got to pull that tyre barrier from where it begins. I like that analogy.
I know.
I don't know where I took that one off.
Yeah. You're on fire this evening, Bradley.
We've got 9 stopped. Yeah, the 949. So the 949 is ground to a halt. I'm just trying to identify where that is.
It's one of many SRS Team Zorg Rennsport cars, by the way, but I wasn't able to.
It's the 949, so the Eschweiler, Graberg and Vinicius driven machine.
And Finn Wiebelhaus, I'm pretty sure, is the driver at the moment.
It's just out of Brunchen. It's just out of Brunchen. You come through the right-hander of Brunchen, and then the fast left, and it's just on driver's left out on the through the left-hander. So we're going to have another slow zone appear out at Brunchen. We've already got the one that we're repairing at Metzgerfeld towards Kallenhard. That's the one we've just been looking at, the tyre wall, etc. But the one at Brunchen, that's to recover a car.
That's the wonderful nature of the Nürburgring 24 Hours, especially on opening day, Johnny. I just listed 3 drivers are in that car, and you told me the drivers in it is a 4th.
Yeah, that wasn't on the original entry list.
Not on my list.
Yeah. Welcome to my world, with so many NLS entry lists that are fully formed only after qualifying on a Saturday morning. And I'm often with Bruce Jones or Peter Snowden, who we'll be hearing from for the rest of the weekend in our race coverage, going, when did they go in the car? So Finn's joining, Damon Surshine, the Canadian, Henning Eschweiler and Kasparas Vingilis, the Lithuanian.
So is that Tommy Graberg no longer in that car then?
I would say so.
Yeah.
Not on the. Let me just check that this is the very latest edition.
Oh, I'm sure I'm behind. Generally, you always am.
This was issued today at just before midday. In fact, I'll make sure you've got this for tomorrow when it will have changed again.
Yes, exactly.
So 2 spots certainly slowed.
Ooh, well done.
Brunchen won for this 949 Cup 3 Porsche. What's happening in Cup 2? That is still Carlos Rivas's 48 Loesch Motorsport 911 GT3 Cup car, quicker than the 901 SRS Team Zorg Rennsport car, and Mike Rosenberg in the 900 Black Falcon prepared 911 is 3rd fastest so far. Rosenberg is doing laps currently. Again, though, so important for those SP9 drivers to be told by their engineers that you've got to push like crazy through the areas of green flag, because then we can get some meaningful data. And that's why Raffaele Marciello was wasting no time in those moments where he was being a little bit compromised, squeezed here and there by the slower cars. They have to go through the corners as well, of course, but it's good practice for these drivers who might not have been here for much of the year, in actual fact. And bear in mind, Raffaele Marciello was driving a BMW hypercar just 7 days ago, so he's got to get back into the GT3 mindset as early as possible.
Still no change then with the top 5, and that is not going to be, that's going to not change in the foreseeable future until we've got these slow zones and repairs done to the barriers. So if you were out there, Ben, would you be suggesting to the team, you know, let's keep the tyres? I know we're kind of losing the gold now, but you don't want to waste the car. You might as well wait until the track's cleared and then have a bash at it.
The problem is we've seen how long it's taking to fix that area, and we are kind of losing the sun, losing the warmth. The freshness will be coming in to help the engines, but the track temperature will be all right for a moment because it doesn't just disappear as soon as the sun goes down. The tarmac does retain warmth well, but it won't be long before the peak of the conditions are gone. And the last opportunity, therefore, for those that were not in the top 5, that are not in the top 5 now, to qualify through into the top qualifying. It leaves the same cars missing out. Christian Klein at the moment in the Audi R8 number 84, he will miss out, as will Arjun Maini in the 64 Ford Mustang, down in 11th position. The Conrad Motorsport Lamborghini misses out, as does the Patrick Kolb driven 63 Mustang. Outside, there's others as well further down outside the top 15.
Good opening sector 4. Oh, that was Marciello, wasn't it? Now, what did he do in the end? The 98 BMW, he did pit towards the end, so did a slowing down lap effectively around the Grand Prix circuit, because there is no option to get into pit road from Hohenrhein and the Tiergarten section. Luca Ludwig, fastest, although it was a Christopher Haase time to put that car right at the sharp end. Then Marcus Winkelhock took over for a period of time, and now Luca Ludwig ticking off some laps as well. But Haase striking whilst the iron was hot. There was a clear road right at the start of the session. Began his flying lap at about 8:10, having been released on the nose at 8 o'clock. But the track was very, very quiet at that point, deliberately so. It was reserved entirely for those SP9 cars that weren't already into top qualifying tomorrow. And Haase setting the quickest time in the session so far, an 8:10.5. That car, as things stand, is back into the top qualifiers for tomorrow. Likewise, the two apt Lamborghinis, 27 and 28, with Jordan Pepper setting the time in the first of those Lamborghinis, and Marco Mappelli, the other driver, actually going marginally faster than his teammate. 34 and 37 Aston Martins have also produced good enough times to get in. So we still have a good chunk of this qualifying 2 session to continue until 11:30 tonight, Peter Snowden, and I'm not sure about necessarily night laps. There will be certainly a certain amount of qualifying that you have to do under nightfall, just like Le Mans was last weekend.
I feel truly privileged that you've called me Peter Snowden. The fact that I could rise to such heights as GT1 legend and Lister Storm driver Peter Snowden. No, unfortunately, it's just Peter Mackay you've got.
Shall we no, don't say just. Don't say just.
Just.
Peter Mackay, you're a superstar in your own underpants, man. Come on.
Well, let's not talk about Peter Snowden's underpants. That could get us in a lot of trouble, couldn't it?
It's mainly because I was mentioning Bruce and Snowy not too long ago and their fantastic commentary of NLS races we've had already today. Peter Mackay, you've been working hard all day on sector splits and whatnot, and I don't know whether you've read the regulations regarding how many night laps you have to put in. But there will be a certain amount of proof that you have run enough during the nighttime hours, and we are at now 9:48. 1 minute after official sunset. The sun still feels like it's up there, though.
It does. It's been such a beautiful day here at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and just a perfect day to go driving, but also to spectate. There's loads of fans here already. I mean, we're still 48 hours away, really, or just less than 48 hours away from the start of the race, which will kick off at 4 o'clock local time on Saturday, and the fever is rising here, and still, you know, it's still a little bit unclear to what the order of things is, because several of the top cars are already into top qualifying, but quite a few aren't. So we haven't really seen the cars that are already in top qualifying wind up yet. We'll get a picture of that tomorrow, and I cannot wait. It's one of my favourite motorsport moments of the year. Is the top qualifying, where they set them off one after the other, and it's just so exciting to watch that. And if you've not got it on your schedule for tomorrow, do so, because it's going to be hugely exciting. Interesting to see both of the Lamborghinis qualifying, or both of the Lamborghinis qualifying for the top qualifying shootout at the moment. They're second and third on the cumulative times at the moment, and looking very, very strong on one lap pace. Likewise, the number 34 Aston Martin, run by Valkenhorst, and the pro car of that lineup on the Michelin tyres, as the guys chronicled earlier on, but they hold that fourth spot. And interestingly, what's a bit of a surprise, I have to say, is in the fifth position is the number 37 Pro Sport Racing GmbH car, because that is the older version of the Aston Martin. It's not the Evo kit, so that's at least 3 years old, because the new Evo kit kicked off at the beginning of the season last year. So that's interesting, and a great job by Marek Botman to pull that car up into top qualifying so far.
Yeah, don't disagree with that, Peter. Good evening, everybody. If you are just joining us, 10 minutes before 10 here in Central European summertime, and it's that beautiful dark, not quite dark, not quite light sort of transition that we have at the moment. And it is, generally speaking, has generally speaking been a beautiful day, very warm, and set to be warmer over the next few days. Just looking at some of the quotes that we've been getting from our colleagues down in the pit lane. Everybody's loving it. Nobody's like, oh yeah, we're doing all right. Obviously, there's been a few people who've had some problems, but they're not admitting it, or at least they're just taking it as it comes, which is, you know, I don't know what else you could do, in fairness, but some interesting work to be done at this stage in terms of getting the cars tuned to the slightly darker and cooler temperatures. This from the 948 GT3 Cup car drivers and Carlos Rivas. Track temperature significantly better than in qualifying one. There's still a lot of traffic, but that's normal. We give it our all. Let's see what happens. Recently talking to our pit team, Tim Schrick from the 88 Subaru, the WRX. Our goal is to finish as high as possible in the overall, as we don't have any competition, and that's a problem, he says. In 2019, we were 18th overall, and the Japanese have set themselves a goal of finishing again in the top 20. That's a high bar here, I'll tell you that now. What else have we got? The Boccolacci number 44 car that was coming around the Porsche, with, was it Heinemann behind the wheel, or was it Marcus Shearing in that? That was a slow puncture in the 44 Falcon car. An hour and 37 minutes, pretty much on the nosy. If you'd like to get in touch with us, please do. We always like to hear from you, and it informs what you want to hear about is what we want to inform you. And if I could find where we are, there we are. Hello to Kevin Payne, who's used Twitter or X. Camera operators giving us some stunning sunset scenes tonight. Looks amazing. Tomorrow, at just after 4 o'clock in the morning, is the summer solstice here. I think it's about 4:18 in the morning is the summer solstice. So we have an extremely short night tonight and tomorrow. I think it was something around 8 hours of official darkness.
And
a
that's
Saturday into Sunday. And that's a lot less than we normally have here.
exactly, because we are about a month later than normal, and next year will be about back to a month earlier than this year. So it does, and that changes things really quite a lot. As Thomas Preining jumps on board now, the number 911 Manthey Racing Porsche. Manthey coming in here trying to get back on the top of the tree in terms of overall wins here. They are tied with Scherer Sport PHX with 7 wins apiece, and Manthey, I mean, they are the Nürburgring really, based here just at Moistpath, which is just beside the Dottinger on driver's left as you come up the Dottinger.
They don't trailer the cars here, they drive the cars here.
Yeah, as did Scherer Sport, funnily enough. So maybe that's an omen. They put a little yellow light on the.
There's a regulation here that says for non-road going vehicles, so agricultural vehicles and non-road vehicles, if you have a little yellow light on the top, you can drive at a certain amount of kilometres between where it's working, even though it's not strictly speaking road legal, which I think is quite funny. So they do that with the race cars.
I love it. I think that's a great regulation.
The tyres.
Yes, of course. Yes, as they often do in transport anyway.
Yep.
Speaking of tyres, the teams, they have 116 slicks to use throughout the whole event. So if you can't necessarily throw brand new tyres at it and keep doing qualifying runs, because then you will run out a little bit. I mean, that is 29 sets. You're going to use about a set an hour if you put one on at each pit stop. So it's how much do you want to use to try and get into that qualifying shootout? Big debrief going on in the Manthey garage between Aycan Guven and Kevin Estre, part of the very strong driver lineup that Manthey car has, and Aycan Guven like a sponge there, listening to one of the real ringmeisters that is Kevin Estre. Has just won the 24-hour once, but is so famous for what he can do in mixed conditions, what he can do when there's a job to be done. Just spellbinding. Some of the clips you can find. If you look them up after the session's finished, you'll see exactly what I mean.
At RSL_studio, and the hashtag is RSL19N24. So 19th N24. So RSL19N24. If you want to get in touch with Peter Mackay and myself here at the Global Broadcast Centre, overlooking the start-finish line. And now that the sun's gone down and we aren't as much in a greenhouse, we have been able to lift the Venetian blinds in the studio, and we can see across to the TUV Rhineland Tower, and beyond that we're looking pretty much directly west, aren't we? So looking at the last vestiges of the sunset.
Still, unfortunately, slow zones at Metzgesfeld and 3 code 60 zones around Metzgesfeld and Kallenhard, unfortunately. So there's a whole section of the track. They're still repairing barriers there due to the number 48 Black Falcon EAE Porsche that went in there into the barrier. And that is that's a shame for that number 48 crew, because they've had a really quick car. They've had a great NLS season in the Pro-Am class, and they will definitely be a threat. I mean, it didn't look like there was an enormous amount of damage. I'm sure the mechanics won't thank me for saying that, but it didn't look terminal for the car anyway, that's for sure. So they should be able to get it fixed and get some more track time in. And of course, they are in the top qualifying shootout, so they will definitely want it ready for that. That is an experience that not many drivers get the opportunity to have, that clear lap of the Nürburgring Nordschleife. They don't get empty tanks though. They actually are brimmed to the top. They have to, by regulation, start the qualifying with a full tank. But in general, it's a flat-out clear lap on the Nordschleife. It doesn't get a great deal better.
Well, all the drivers love that since it was brought in a few years ago, and it has become a must-watch. So check your local listings for details. Don't forget where our lovely friends at Racer are streaming this event this year. So if you're in the US, you'll be able to get up to the race start and actually a little bit into the race on the internet at YouTube, but after that it is on Racer, and you'll be able to follow along on there. Teo Vey, apparently, for the Rhineland Tower. Thank you, Tim. And it is 10 o'clock in the evening, 9 o'clock where Tim is, back in the UK. Thank you for your company today already. Plenty to come tomorrow, but still an hour and 30 minutes to see if anyone can improve. Air temperature's coming down. Track temperature will come down a little bit as well. Maybe time for a fast lap for those not yet into the top qualifying. Let's find out in the next 90 minutes. Campsites beginning to come alive as well. Somebody asking me about how much it costs to come and watch this race. Well, if you're out in the... Wow, that onboard's loud. If you're out in the forest, there are tickets for parking and camping, but I believe you can just tramp through the forest and get to the trackside without any payment. I don't know how you would police it, to be honest.
I think there's a lot of things that go on out with the circuit that are difficult to police. That amazing symphony in the background, car number 16, Sheriff Sport PHX, Porsche, not Audi. Porsche, they do have an Audi, but they also have a Porsche now. The blue number 16, known as Sally, named after Sally Carrera from the Cars movies. It's even got underneath the engine cover, even got the tattoo that Sally Carrera has. So all the details thought about for Sheriff Sport PHX. Interestingly, they didn't want to make the full switch over to Porsche. They've kept their race-winning Audi from last year, of course, splitting their bets between the two German manufacturers. And at the moment, no matter how well your lap's going, it's going to be scrubbed basically by the time you get to Metzgesfeld. So Lawrence Vanthoor not on a lap that will be counting really, because they'll hit the slow zone and then that's it. And this is really interesting, John, because the number 16 Sheriff Sport PHX Porsche, for me, is one of the top two favourite cars coming into this. But if they don't get into top qualifying, that is going to be a lot more difficult for them.
Does it make that much difference?
Yes.
You think?
Yeah, well, here, if you lose time, you don't ever get it back. And if you miss the leading train, you'd leave yourself really on the back foot, and you can be fighting all night to make up the time that you lost not being in the top qualifying. 17 cars go into that, so you'll be on the 9th row or lower. Not impossible.
Did you find out? What am I trying to turn up and turn down? Here we go. Did you find out how many cars get the blue light?
From my understanding, it's just those who are in top qualifying.
See, I thought that was changed a few years ago to all the GT3 cars, all the SP9 cars, so that slower cars realised what was coming up behind them. Answers on a postcard, please. Or answers to RSL_studio.
To answer the question on does the qualifying matter, there's two sides to the story actually, because if you're on pole, the last car to win from pole was the Mercedes in 2016. But interestingly, the last 2 years, the winner has started third on the grid.
Yeah.
Then in 2022, 2021, all the way back to 2017, it's been out with the top three in qualifying. So there's definitely two sides to the story, that's for sure. But it isn't just about the overall top pole sitter. One car that's definitely a fan favourite around here is the Beetle RSR, car number 13.
That's had a bit of work tonight. Since we saw it here last year.
It's an ever-evolving beast. Is driven by Bernd Albrecht at the moment.
When I saw this here a few years ago, and it's been here a few years, It reminded me of a project that somebody had done to make a... Right, I think we mentioned this earlier on, but pit speed limits must be respected here. If you don't, then you lose your fastest lap, and that is the number 59 that has lost its time.
That is a front-running car in FT8T. It's a McLaren Artura Trophy, which is faster than the GT3 cars up the Dottinger Hill.
That's because it has less aero, I presume.
Yes, exactly.
Sorry, to go back to the Beetle. It reminds me of an old project to put a Porsche engine in the back of it. An original Beetle. I had it, one of the last of the German Beetles many years ago, and had a great time driving that. It was a 1303, fantastic piece of kit, and sort of brought up to date. So I decided to start looking for the RSI, which was the road-going car. Have you seen how much they go for?
They're very rare. Yeah, they're very, very rare. I remember I've owned one on Gran Turismo 3, where it was part of that. They were all only made in like a silver colour. Yeah, so go on, how much are they?
Oh, no, just...
You won't want to know?
No.
You have price on application?
Yes.
Right.
Pretty much.
Not good. There are very, very few of them around. I have to say I prefer the Nordschleifer Racer, which is very much a home-built special, maybe unfair, but certainly an independent race team built special.
Now, have they got it running four-wheel drive now?
That I don't know yet. It was running front-wheel drive last year, but they said soon four-wheel drive was the.
There's been a change in the regulations, hasn't there, this year in terms of the classes, because it was the rear drive or four-wheel drive in that sort of area, because the S3 last year was Quattro and was in with the rear-wheel drive cars in its class, and I think some of the BMWs were being a bit embarrassed by the speed of that pretty much bog standard S3, so they got banged 150 kilos onto that, which is getting on for a person and a half, isn't it? Two small people, two extra race drivers.
But they are back in the front-wheel drive class now, although they have four-wheel drive.
Yes, so because what they've done, Peter, is the all-wheel drive or has now gone with the front. So it used to be rear and or all-wheel drive. Now it's front and or
yes,
all-wheel drive. Anyway, they've still got quite a lot
of class, despite that.
The Dupre car? Exy. We spoke to the Dupre. He was very happy to tell us about his car, wasn't he?
Christophe Dupre, amazing passion. And what I love about it...
He's been driving and racing as Dupre Motorsport for 50-odd years, and there's been a Dupre Motorsport for nearly 80 years.
Yeah, amazing, isn't it?
It's great.
You think the length of time that engineering company's been going, and it is, I mean, if you've seen out on the road, and you'll see them everywhere, an Audi S3 saloon, four-door saloon, it is as close as you can get a race car to the road car, if you like. Only the bare minimum things have been changed on it to make it safe for racing. So a protected bucket seat, a roll cage, the airbag's been removed from the steering wheel, and there isn't a great deal different from that.
It's still the DSG.
Still the same gearbox, yeah. The starter button is the same. All of the dash trim is still there. The door cards are still there. I presume the electric windows still work.
Yes, they do.
It is as close as you can possibly get. And actually,
no change to the engine either.
No, totally standard. About 310 horsepower, something like that.
I think he said.
Oh, right. So it's maybe been breathed on a touch then, maybe. But
it's quite a new version of the S3 because it's got the bigger headlights and the bigger bumpers on.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's been retrofitted and how easy that would be to do. Confirmation, by the way, from Johannes. Hello, mate. He's been feeding us a lot of good information that is indeed four-wheel drive.
So they've made that upgrade.
Yeah.
Great. That's good.
They were talking about using some bits from an Audi TT when I spoke to them 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was It was a 4-cylinder VAG turbo unit last year, so I presume it's the same.
The venerable AA888 by any
something
chance?
like that, yeah. Well, the engine you see in almost anything from Golf R's. Yeah, actually, that is the base block that's in the Skoda Fabia RS Rally 2 car.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, AA888. They've got their money's worth out of the development budget for that engine, I think.
Beautiful time of the evening now for our camera operators to be shooting. We've got a very quick cable camera on the front straight, which starts off on driver's left and then is diagonally rigged across to the first corner, pretty much across the apex of the first corner. The local water companies will have been doing well this week. Gerolsteiner amongst others, Gerolstein amongst others, but there's been an awful lot of water consumed. Full dark now, with an hour and 20 to go. So it has got. It was nice for a little while, but the last bit of darkness has happened really quickly.
It has, yes, and I think it will be different depending on which part of the circuit you're on, because in the Grand Prix track it's not quite as heavily wooded, of course, so you get more of the last bits of light from the sky. But when you get out onto the Nordschleife, it will be darker because a lot of them are within the trees. But important running for all of the cars out with the SP9. They are trying to get their grid spots in all of these qualifying sessions. So, and it's also trying to get all of their drivers cycled through, get some experience. You know, you can't really drive in the Nürburgring 24 without doing NLS races first. So you get a bit of an idea of that. You can't, no. So you need to get your permit. So you know, everybody's heard about Max Verstappen's run in a test day here and saying, "Oh, why is he not at the 24-hour?" Well, he would have to do his permit just like everybody else. I did notice, yeah.
An Aston Martin this time.
I did notice that, yeah. The number 48 Black Falcon EAE Porsche has been returned. Amazingly quick job from the circuit recovery team to get the car back to the garage already. It was all the way at Metzgesfeld, and there's more damage than I actually thought.
Yeah, I thought that would drive out from underneath those barriers, the tyre barriers. It didn't, and there's quite a bit of bodywork damage. I mean, the wheels are roughly pointing in the right direction, or at least the hubs are. Just a point on that, during the race, you can get outside assistance, and we'll quite often see the trackers on the cars on the infield roads. And of course, this is a circuit that goes around point to point. It was created to mimic the roads around this area and take the famous Eifel Rennen, the Eifel races, off the roads. So rather than flying past people's front doors in the early to mid 1920s, this place was conceived and built also as a test facility as well. And ever since then, it has absolutely been challenging the automotive world in both street cars, road cars, and in racing cars, whether it is the cars themselves, the systems, the secondary and tertiary systems and suppliers like tyres and brakes. What a facility has turned out to be. I don't think you could do this today.
No chance. No, the you think even now to build a normal road, to add new road in of 25 kilometres takes years.
Yeah.
And certainly in the Western world it does. It takes years to do that, with compulsory purchases and all those sorts of boring things. So yeah, it's truly a unique thing, and it's very, very important that the whole facility is preserved. And that's what everyone who comes to race here, everyone who comes to watch here, everyone has their own little part to play in preserving this piece of automotive history and how special it is to go racing here. Not just once a year, of course. We race all the way through the year. The Nürburgring Langstrecken series, which we're fortunate enough to cover on the Radio Show Limited network of channels. And this, of course, is the highlight of the year of our Nürburgring season of the Big Racing 24. And personally, for me, one of my motorsport highlights of the year, full stop.
Thanks to Perry, we've found on Race Cars Direct, I think, yes it is, chassis number 57 of the 60 RSI Beetle Cup cars, which is ready to go. Now, that was a 3.2 V6 and has the all-in suspension kit as well, which is worth about £8,000, and lightweight 2-piece wheels, air jacks, etc. Price on application.
Of course.
It's in black and red at the moment and runs the 57 number. Thank you, Perry. That's Joseph Perry. Hashtag RSL19N24. If you want to get in touch. Hour and 15 to go. No major changes for a wee while, Peter. So
we're just sort of impatiently waiting for the code 60 zones to
come out.
Well, if those code 60 zones remove, then definitely you'll get a big rush. There's 3 code 60 zones at the moment between Metzgesfeld and Kallenhardt. So at the moment, there's no point in going out to try and take a lap on if that's what you're going for. At the moment, the big car we've got to keep a watch on is the number 16 Sport PHX Porsche, which was hugely fast in the qualifying races and has, you know, clearly very, very strong pace, but it just didn't quite get into that top 5, those 5 transfer spots to the top qualifying, which is what we're really watching for. So at the moment, Lawrence Vantor, who's arguably the fastest driver in that driver lineup, is suited and booted in the car, strapped in, ready to go, but he's just sitting in the pits at the moment, presumably waiting for those code 60s to be lifted and for the track to be full green again. The thing is, that might be the case, but of course, then you've got to hope that you get a clear lap. With a record entry since the COVID pandemic, you might not get that clear lap. So that was how important those first couple of laps were of this session, for lots of reasons. So we'll see. The team will be working very, very hard out on the circuit, trying to get it back to full racing condition. It always amazes me when you think, well, this is going to be ages until the barrier's repaired, and yet it gets repaired very, very quickly indeed.
We've now started something in that Johannes has just tweeted a very sideways Belgian Valvoline sponsored Rallycross Beetle, and I've got to tell you, Rallycross was right up my... I'd still love to do a bit of Rallycross, particularly classic Rallycross. The Beetles, the DAF 66 and 44s. Was that the DeRoy brothers who ran those? I seem to remember them having a bump in the roof because they were both pretty tall lads. And there was an all-wheel drive Ford Capri, which Tony Proctor ran, and Tony Proctor's son, Mark Proctor, went rallycross racing in an RS200 as well at Croft.
The winner of the first ever rallycross race also won the Nürburgring 1,000 kilometres and the Marathon de la Route 84 hour. Do you know who it is?
Roger Clark.
Nope.
No, who?
You're in the right country.
Jim Clark.
Nope.
Come on then.
Vic Elford.
Vic Elford.
All in Porsches.
Yeah.
Porsche 911.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Well, rallycross was invented because we've got an outbreak of foot and mouth here in Europe at the moment. It was created to fill a gap in the TV when they couldn't have horse racing during foot and mouth, and it was invented down at Liddon Hill, and of course Vic was in the 911. Should have remembered that. Hello.
Which is a press car.
Yes, I know. Hello to Paul Ayling, thoroughly enjoying the coverage. RSL 19N24. Not that many places now, I'm told, that you can see the track for free. Most entrances to the forest has somebody manning the gate, but it's outrageously cheap. Something under €100 for the week.
There's value for money.
Yeah.
When you compare that to some other motorsport events, that's incredibly good value for money. So there's really no excuse. Come and enjoy it, because there is just truly, it's a beautiful part of the world. And you know what, even when the weather's not great, it's still just got an aura about this place that I honestly can't explain it. You need to come and experience it for yourself. It's so special.
This area, the Vulcan Eifel, volcanic, beautiful area. It's a UNESCO site of extreme natural beauty and international heritage, etc. Absolutely fabulous. If you're a running, cycling, walking type of person, the trails around here are legion. All of the hotels and the hotel parks, the ferrying parks around here, there's some very big ones from the big chains, as well as some smaller ones as well, but they all do equipment hire. And it's green round here, so you're going, you know, when it's this green, you're going to have a bit of precipitation. So, you know, get used to that. Jimmy Broadbent's out in the 150 BMW, just gone through the top of Adnar Forst in the car he shares with his teammates, and just coming into the area at the code 60. Main beam headlights off, double left, uphill. So this is coming up towards Metzgerfeld and then Kallenhard on the drop down the hill. He's not quite there yet. Still the barrier repair going on with the cones out to driver's right. Now the lights can go back on again. The green flags and the reflective panes. Dropping down. Short shift in between the right-hander and the little kink through Kallenhard. I've got to say, I hope he's got a better view down the road. I'm not sure the headlights on that 150 are actually where they should be. The ones pointing out to the side are great, but the ones that are going straight forward are either too high or too low, because they're not really reaching out into the darkness there. I'd like to be seeing a lot further down the road. And indeed, to be honest, I've seen road cars that have got better headlights than that.
Well, that's what all the pre-event time is for. Get everything
That's
set
not just
up.
my eyes there. It might be on camera. I'm not sure.
Could be the camera shot can be misleading sometimes. But Jimmy heading up the Kesselchen at the moment at unabated speed.
Here's
sharing with Bergwerk, and then up towards Kesselchen.
That's one of the. That's the purple people eater. The Get Speed AMG that goes through. Not only is it very purple, but it's got the header rail lights over the top. Lots of people utilising these stick-on LEDs for identification for the teams when they're watching the same pictures that we do.
Makes it easier for us.
Yeah, absolutely, it does once you learn them. Don't forget, by the way, you can follow along. There's all the information that we've got here, including a very good app. The app, unfortunately, is still only available on Apple devices, which is a bit of a shame. But all the timing is available via the N24 website and the live ticker as well.
Yeah, there's lots of layers of detail you can gain through public information there. It's Jimmy Broadbent now coming up towards the carousel, the famous carousel. When you think of the Nürburgring, that's probably the corner that's photographically anyway the most famous. But
it's part of their logo now. Let's not forget.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
The Caracciolo carousel.
Yes, it is. I mean, an iconic corner. And Jimmy sharing with a team that have been a fairly solid quartet now for a couple of years, sharing with Stephen Brown, Misha Khairuddin, and Manuel Metzger, who's definitely the most experienced driver in that crew, and a great guy to have on board. But you know, Jimmy, Steve, and Misha. I mean, Misha drives here every single day, several laps a day in road cars, so knows the place well. But Jimmy's, he's more than serving his apprenticeship here at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and they'll be looking to go for the top result. They're in the SP8T class, which is a very competitive class with several different types of machinery in it.
Lamborghini in the pit lane is the mostly black and white.
It's a 28 car.
Yeah, that is the
apt sports line.
Yeah, beautiful. Very, very purposeful with the rear wing, as is the fashion nowadays, mounted on the swan necks. The Audi Evos, of course, have got the swan necks underneath around the other side, and it has got the splitter in the middle, the fin as well. This is the Mapelli, Engelhardt and Engsler number 28 guide. Satin dark grey and satin black colours this year seem to be the vogue, don't they? They seem to be that satin sort of, not gloss finish, but not exactly matte finish either. Don't know whether it's more slippery through the air or...
Could be, yeah, could be the reason. Or lighter weight, wrap, I don't know. But interesting to see that the Lamborghinis have really picked up the pace since the qualifying races. When you look at their pace just now, that both cars in top qualifying. Yeah, that's right, John. Yeah, and then in second and third, right now they're way quicker than they were in the qualifying races. And interestingly, they're one of only two brands that have had a balance of performance adjustment coming into this race. The car has been given a slightly lower minimum wing angle, so less draggy if you like, and also a slightly lower minimum rake, so again less draggy, and that's clearly made a difference. Their best lap time, 8:11.647 for the number 28 apt Sportsline car, and actually that's pretty much on their exact theoretical best. If you take all their best sectors, they're only a 10th slower, which is amazing. 8:12.2 for Mirko Bertolotti's number 27 the sister car, which is about half a second off the theoretical best. Again, very good. So they're looking good. They're looking really good right now, and this is something that's for apps. This is really important to have two cars, because when they were last in the hunt for the win, which was 2 years ago, they had a puncture just around around Brunchen, excuse me, and that cost them several minutes, and the race was gone. But they were quick enough to win the race that year. This year, having two cars in there, that can only help.
Down to just on an hour and 4 minutes to go. Sven Müller behind the wheel of the number 33 Porsche 911 GT3R. The circuit still under the cooled 60s we've been telling you about, so there'll be no improvements. And that was another Falcon car by the side of the road there. They've got one of the BMWs as well, haven't they, in Falcon colours? Down the field.
Down the field they might do, not in SP9.
No. SP9, no. It's, I think it's that looked to be just coming through Galgenkopf, the Gallows Hill, just coming on to Dottinger Höhe, so you might want to just spot to see who's moving slowly there, Peter. There's on driver's left, just coming on to the Dottinger Höhe. And it was moving very slowly. Meantime, the Toyo tyres, Proxys,
this would make
Toyota is in the pit lane. This is number 160, the Super GR.
That would make sense, John. It's a Golf GTI, but it's Max Cruiser Racing, which it does have sponsorship from Falcon. So you're right over the Falcon for sure. It's hard to tell in the darkness, isn't it? That's in the AT3 class. Yeah. With Armando Stanco, Dario Stanco, Christoph Lenz and Max Kruse himself driving.
And that's for all the years we've had Max Kruse cars here, this is the first time he's raced here. The first time he's raced in the 24.
Okay. Great to have him.
He was having a lot of fun earlier on in his early laps here.
If we could just get rid of these pesky slow zones, I think we could have a real rush for some times. We do have an hour and 2 minutes left on the clock.
In to top queue that should be.
It's number 16 Sheriff Sport Porsche, right, for certain.
Right.
They right now will be, they'll be so frustrated because they know they've got a car capable. The other one as well, which is a curious case, is the number 98 Rover BMW. Now, they didn't go to the qualifying races.
It's the only BMW
It's
here.
the only BMW. And last year we saw some of the BMWs be a bit off the pace all week, albeit then Max Hesse put the car on pole. But then in the race, all of a sudden, particularly the Rover cars came to the fore and were way quicker than they've been all week. Go figure. Now, I wonder what if the Rover 98 BMW team are potentially not wanting to show their hand, potentially happy to miss top qualifying, and then see if they get a balance of performance adjustment. We've seen it done before, but if they don't, well, if that's their pace, then they're off the pace right now by a good margin.
Peter Mackay and John Hindhaugh on the late shift here, thanks to Ben Constantiouris, Joe Bradley and Johnny Palmer. Actually, that should have been Joe Bradley, Ben Constantiouris and Johnny Palmer in alphabetical order. Beautiful red sky at night, Shepherd's Delight at the moment, as Sven Müller heads up to Schwedenkreuz at the top of the hill, flashing his lights to nobody in particular as he goes through and drops down under the bridge, which is it's got a new sponsor on it this year, down through the foxhole. He's got a lovely clear run here, Peter, and he has got a blue light on that car already, flashing away.
Because that car is the number 33 Falcon Porsche is already in top qualifying as he comes through Adenauer Force. Now, we don't have any code 60 zones.
I think it's clear here.
We have 2 slow zones. So as we come down to Metzgersfeld now,
you would have seen it on the right hand side.
Yeah, there's going to be. It's clear, absolutely, John. Yes, it is. So,
was that a yellow there?
That is very, very. That's typically tough for a driver. It wasn't a yellow, but it was somebody with a yellow light of some sort in the crowd. That must be so difficult as a driver to spot the difference.
I love this part of the track. Callan Hard down through the hill. Shame we didn't stay with Sven Müller there as he came down the hill. It's right on the other side. It's about as far away as you can get from the pits, actually.
Well, stand by your stand by the fences, because this is take a step back from the fences, because this is where we could see some cars go for a lap. Lawrence Vantor at the moment is on circuit. In fact, he's just coming round to start another lap, which is pretty handy indeed. It's almost as if they knew how long it would take for the track to open up again. The track, we only have 1 yellow flag at Carousel now, so the track is effectively capable of giving a lap time, as Vantor has come through the first sector and he's losing half a second in that first sector alone.
Boccolacci's in the pitch in the number 44, the sister car to Sven Müller, the 2 Falcon Porsches. Do you want to be going out now and heating up a set of brand new tyres from whomever they are, or would you have already wanted to be out there, even if you had a couple of laps on them, just to have some residual heat in them? I'm not sure.
Hard to say.
Sure.
Depends on the brand, I think.
I reckon 9 different brands of tyres this year.
It's a little bit less than last year. We had 11 last year.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And
want to name them? Without looking.
Michelin.
Yeah.
Goodyear.
Yeah.
Pirelli.
Yeah.
Yokohama.
Yeah.
Toyo.
Yeah.
GT.
Yeah.
Hankook.
Yeah.
Now I'm starting to struggle.
Well, we just talked about the 2 Porsches.
I said Falcon, didn't I? No, Falcon. Okay, Falcon. And then there's one more, which don't know the 9th one.
Nexon here this year?
Nexon have been here in the past, yes. So, I mean, that alone is amazing, isn't it, to have that many? I said Goodyear, didn't I?
You did.
Yes. Yes, I mean, that's a really good...
There's some down the field as well.
Yes.
Which, like GT, GITI, apparently GT.
So I think tyre-wise, when the cars went for their really quick run at the very beginning of the session, they spent the opening lap. Interestingly, they didn't come round the loop. They went straight onto the Nordschleife and did a build lap all the way around the Nordschleife, which was quite telling, I thought. So we'll see. Right now, Lawrence Vantor, he is not improving in any sector right now for that car.
Is that
He's about halfway through.
Though?
It is. So we might need to wait until he comes around again.
Yeah.
To see what he had done a full lap of the Nordschleife before, though, so he had his build lap, so to speak. But right now he's not really on the pace at the moment.
Don't forget that David Waymer is here this weekend from Sportscar 365, his Thursday notebook was posted earlier on today. Sportscar365.com, the news authority on sports car and endurance racing. They've been working very, very hard. Davey is doing back-to-back-to-back 24s. John de Geese back in Watkins Glen. And we've got Dinah Binks and Arjuna Kankapati over there as our pit lane team this weekend. And we will be covering both of the Porsche races on a back-to-back race weekend. The Porsche Carrera Cup North America, as well as Michelin Pilot Challenge and the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship over this weekend. So there's no need to miss out. Conveniently, the sale in 6 hours of the Glen does not start until 4 hours after this race has ended. So actually more than
2 hours.
2 hours, excuse me.
Perfect.
2 hours. So just time for you to switch over, make yourself some food, get a couple of beverages. Oh, big moment for one of the Hyundais in front of Augusto Farfus in the sole BMW in the race this weekend. Why only one BMW? Quite simply, BMW are committing their works cars to IMSA, and being a 6 hour race, they need 6 drivers. And they have got Spa 24 next weekend, and something had to give after the Le Mans 24 last weekend. And so they've decided to put all of their eggs into one BMW M4 GT3 Rover Racing basket.
And it's a good basket to put them in, that's for sure. Augusto Farfus and Lawrence Vantor for Rover BMW and Sheriff Sport PHX Porsche respectively are really trying hard now to try and get into those 5 transfer spots to the top qualifying shootout. The problem is they're coming across a lot of traffic. Vantor just at the carousel at the moment, but Farfus a little bit further around the lap actually. He's at the Stephen Bellof S is just now heading towards Schwalbenschwanz. But right now on the time screen, neither of them are improving on their car's time. And for Farfus, he needs to find 3 seconds. And Vantor needs to find just a second will do to get him into those transfer spots. And this is the last opportunity to do that. So in terms of this session, 53 minutes left on the clock. But as darkness comes down, are the conditions there to get that quick time?
It's a very good question to ask, Peter, and I don't think anyone knows the answer other than the teams themselves and the drivers who are out there. I was talking to Peter Kate earlier on, late.
Vantor, sorry John, Vantor getting held up there big time at Brunchen. Cayman GT4 trying their best, and there's such a big closing speed between a GT3 or SP9 car and a GT4 car. Vantor now coming over Flansgarten, which is a lot less of a jump now than it used to be. They've changed the profile of the road there a little bit, so not quite getting as much air, which I'm sure the photographers will be disappointed about. I'm sure Jochen from Frozen Speed will be darting around the circuit trying to get all the good shots. He seems to know exactly where to be and when. Sign of a good photographer.
Had a chat with him earlier on today. It's his birthday next week. Heading to Spa for a track day heading to Zandvoort for a track day before he goes to Spa next weekend. But picking up a new car for his birthday on Friday. He's very excited about that.
Love new car day. Doesn't happen very often. It's several years.
New car day. It's just new to you.
New car day is new car day. Yeah, whether it's out the showroom or not. That's it's when it's new to you.
Now resident of these environs, and runs his very successful photography business. If you haven't seen Frozen Speed, you are missing out. His year-end calendars are simply stunning. Right, so green flags around most of the area. Lawrence Vantor with traffic ahead of him in the shape of a BMW Cup car.
BMW M4, sorry, M2, excuse me, yes.
Is it an M2 or is it it's one of the 240s?
240i's.
Yeah.
Or a little bit of a hold up there for Vantor as he goes on to start another lap. So much traffic out there with a slightly bigger entry than we've been used to the last couple of years. That doesn't help when you're trying to find a lap time. As the yellow flags basically working their way around the circuit. That's because there's an intervention vehicle with the car on the back of it making its way around, and it's nearly into the pit. So this is a green flag racetrack now for Lawrence Vantor as he comes onto the GP circuit.
Happens ahead of him. New set of Falkman tyres going on to one of their Porsches. They're having a bit of a wiggle of the left rear on that car as well, as if there's possibly been a wee bit of an incident, and they were repressuring the tyres as well. Yeah, that he's been down the barriers on the left-hand side of that car. I thought they were putting new tyres on. I'll take that back, because it looks like the sidewalls were slightly scuffed on there. But I can't see any damage. The helmet cam on the mechanic giving us a really good idea of where they were looking. No hurry in the pit stops, and there won't be during the race either. The car going onto its trolleys, they'll tilt it round to 45-degree angle, echelon style. Alessio Ricciardiello, one of the drivers in that car.
A very strong driver indeed, and there was quite a big, shall we say, social media exchange when Max Verstappen nearly broke the internet by putting in an alleged lap time, and Alessio Piccarello, which was very fast, and Alessio Piccarello had definitely the tweet of that whole exchange he says thank you to Franz Hermann, which is Max Verstappen's pseudonym, I suppose. Yes, and he says thank you very much.
Apparently by his British mechanics.
Right. He said thank you very much.
Without any sense of irony.
And he said thank you very much to Franz Hermann for showing the full pace of the Ferrari 296 on the Nordschleife, which I thought was quite funny.
Yeah. It was a test day. Michelin set of tyres on the BMW. Just hearing... hello to Shindig Bear, by the way. Thank you for your kind words. Great to see you at the first tickets campsite at Le Mans last Friday. Gosh, that's only a week to go tomorrow. It seems like a lifetime, Peter. That was your first opportunity to come into one of our stand-ups. Oh, big moment at the first corner, as one of the GT4 Caymans was a little bit unsure of where to go, being closed down on by a couple of faster cars, held his line, and no contact. So hello to Shindig Bear. Hello to Alan Prosser. Still a few customers in the pub in North Wales, but he's taking control of the big telly. He's got his feet up there.
Does Alan Prosser own that pub, or is he just
he works
loyal patron? Right, okay,
yeah.
I understood. Because I like that there's a pub that will show racing.
Yeah.
Because it's always a battle in the pub when everyone wants to have football on or something like that. Nah, put the racing on.
Hearing that the number 979 card, you can look that up whilst I give you the story. The driver, Anna-Lena Binkowska, 150 kilometers an hour in a code 60. Now, I think if you look at the penalty screen, Peter, she might actually be in trouble there and have her permit suspended. So she may not be able to race this weekend in that 979. We'll get that confirmed from the official notice board.
Yeah, that's in one of the SRS Team Sorg Rennsport Porsche Caymans in the Cup 3 category. Yeah, the Nürburgring 24-hour organisers, and the governing bodies do not mess about when it comes to speeding through a code 60, particularly at that level of difference, and that is normally a loss of permit. But if you're caught speeding at that level through a code 60, generally that's what it is. So it's one of the unique things of racing here at the Nürburgring. You have to be on it all the time. It's so mentally taxing here. It's so easy to do. That's not out of just going, oh, I'm just going to go through here, and it will be just, there's so much going on around this track that it's so easy to make that mistake. But the reason why the penalty is so big and the punishment is high is to make sure that driver doesn't do it again, because the safety implications of going through a code 60 at that is
it's not worth thinking about.
Exactly, yeah.
And
So
that is
that's
why that you can't just walk into this race and drive a GT3 car, which is the top class of cars. It doesn't matter what you have done in the past. You said earlier on, Peter, and you're absolutely right, this is a unique race track and a unique race. And for once, unique means just that, unlike any other. And it doesn't matter what level you've raced at, it doesn't matter what experience you've got, you simply can't take liberties around here, particularly the way the race is run, and therefore everyone has to be assessed and everyone has to prove that they are respectful enough and worthy and sensible enough and knows the regulations enough in a classroom session to be in charge of one of the top class cars. Everybody has to have a license of some description, but for the A category, the ADAC A class license for the GT3 cars, you can't just jump into a GT3 car and race it. You've got to take part in a or you've got to complete a certain number of laps in one of the NLS races, actually normally in 2 races, but it's 14 laps. And normally you'll do half in one race and half in another. You could probably get it all done in one race if you did it all yourself. I've known that people to try to do that if they were short on time.
You could do that, yeah, and it's brilliant to see some of the drivers that have gone and got their permit in very humble machinery, because often that's how you have to do it in quite a low class of car.
Johnny O'Connell did it in a Renault Clio.
There you go. Yeah.
Front-wheel drive Renault Clio, and loved every moment of it.
I bet he did. So, yeah, everyone has to serve their apprenticeship. It is a unique place. There are no shortcuts. No shortcuts at all. Now, just as we said, there was a green flag racetrack for Lawrence Vantor. Just as he was about to go back onto the Nordschleife on that effectively green flag lap, there was a slow zone that popped up, and indeed a code 60 at ADAC, which is about half to 3/4 of a way around the Nordschleife. So again, the number 16 Shersport PHX machine of Lawrence Vantor pulled in, so they are still out of the top qualifying shootout with 43 minutes left on the clock. There's time, but is there going to be even a green racetrack? You're not going to have a clear racetrack, that's for sure. You're going to hit traffic. It's just whether you can get around that traffic quick enough to be able to set that lap time. Now, they have theoretically an 8-minute 13.5 in the car based on their sectors through qualifying earlier on in this qualifying session. That would be plenty to get them in. In fact, a second slower than that would get them in. But you need the clear track.
A couple of comments from the pit lane. This from the team principal of the BMW number 98 here, the Rover racing car, Hans-P Peder at Naundorf. He says, due to the timing of the 24-hour race, many BMW works drivers are tied up with other commitments this year. Simply weren't enough drivers available to implement our programme as usual. Namely, with at least 2 works cars, we are happy to be competing at all this year, with an eye on Le Mans and Spa, with BMW competing, of course, in IMSA as well. The decision to race at the Nürburgring was actually made relatively late, so we've stuck with just 1 car, albeit with some really strong drivers. We would like to see more BMWs in the field, at the front of the field, but this participation should be understood as clear commitment from BMW for this race. Not entirely satisfied with the first day. We're missing out on some important processes due to the shortened preparation time. We should have been in the top qualifying, but at the moment we're finding that quite difficult. We're getting ready and then focusing entirely on the race. Drivers need to get used to visibility at light, and we need to fine-tune the lighting. That from the Soul BMW. Team manager Gunter Aberer for the Mercedes-AMG GT3, the Kenneth Hire, more Hertling car. We're in our programme and training for the race now, as we've already qualified for top qualifying. Yeah, absolutely, makes sense. Franz Conrad saying of his number 7 car, just as I was about to read that out, that's disappeared. Let me go down a bit. Says, I'm not entirely satisfied today. Want to go out again and see if we can improve. We're not in top qualifying yet. We'd like to be there. We're going to put on some soft tyres. The Gulden Sattler Henrici car reported on fire near the exit of the test hill. The driver is out of the car. Now, we've not seen that part of the track. Meantime,
well, there is code 60s around Kesselchen and Hoacht.
Hoacht, yeah.
So
that is the very beautiful 911. That's a 991 GT3 Cup car, isn't it? The MR, the number 347 with the Gulden Sattler Henrici, Mark Henrici car. That's the blue one, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, it's a really cool-looking car, a Toyo livery. Just on that point that Franz Conrad made about throwing a soft tyre on, that's something that, you know, it depends on the manufacturer that you're on. These are what are called confidential tyres, so you're not when you go to compete in a championship where they have a control tyre, everybody kind of gets the same thing. But in this race, where it's effectively a tyre war, which has been won by Michelin 9 out of the last 10 years, 7 times in a row, by the rules, you can have 4 tyres types per axle, and per car. So say it's a Ferrari. The Ferrari can have 4 different types of front tyres and 4 different types of rear. Then a BMW can have 4 different types of front and 4 different types of rear for it, which may be different to suit that car. So the depth that you can go into, and therefore you can have different types of tyre that work and some that don't, and depending on the conditions. So you can throw the tyre at the car which kind of suits that temperature and that condition at that time. So it's very, very different. It's quite old school in a way, actually. It's become old school because tyre wars can get out of hand, they can get expensive, and many series of taking a control tyre manufacturer for that reason. But here at the Nürburgring, it's wide open.
Hello to Red Square. Thanks for the tickets to Le Mans last week. Watching you in the back garden at Silverstone. I'll get back to the race one day. Say hello to David Drinkwater. He's out there in a BMW. And also to Randy Sherwood from the States, tweeted in at RSL_studio. And the hashtag this weekend is RSL19N24 for our 19th Nürburgring 24. Can I watch the 24 hours in the US here, or will it be geo-blocked? Everything up to the first couple of hours of the race is on the YouTube channel and is available to everyone. And then after that, in the States, it'll be on the Racer channel, I believe. Well, actually, I said I believe. I know, I've been told. So there you go. The number 59 Dörder Strijcek Altman McLaren Artura Trophy has been moved back 5 places in the start grid, having been speeding in the pit lane.
So even the most experienced drivers sometimes, or teams, that can happen to, because that car, the Dörr Motorsport McLaren Artura Trophy Evo, has Volker Strijcek in there, who is very close, as in fact, he's 2 class victories behind Heinz Joseph Bermes in the overall.
Wow.
He's 14 times a class winner here at the Nürburgring 24
Is the
hour.
Manta Fox still running in the Classic, by the way?
There is a Manta. I'm not sure if it's the Foxtail, but there is a Manta.
I think it is. I sort of saw it from a distance. Waren de Boxen ganz schnell wird und so the fastest lap of the Kreuzpointners, number 633 Porsche, that's gone, as has the fastest lap for the Toyota Supra number 268. This is all speeding in the pit lane, and it looks like the Jimmy Broadbent car has stopped at Exmüller as well, and
now, interestingly, in our studio here, we had images of the 150 Team Bilstein car driven by Steve Brown as moving.
right.
It was definitely moving at that point. Now, whether it stopped and then got moving again could be the case.
That was at 6 minutes ago.
Well, within those 6 minutes, he's been back moving again.
Okay.
So
I'm having to
try and
use.
find him on the tracker.
Mrs. Powell will be very happy that I'm trying to use my schoolboy German as
I'm impressed.
my
He's moving.
translate hazard. Who is? Oh,
The 150 of
Is
Steve
that
Brown.
Steve behind the wheel?
Yes.
No.
Super GT, as he's known to his fans,
Okay.
albeit a lot slower than some of the cars
So
around
he
him.
had stopped at Exmüller, so he's moving again.
I did think when we got the images on our broadcast centre, he did look like his eyes were on stock and the cars were going slow. So that would maybe be, if we put all those bits and pieces together, as number 44 Maurice Schuring has to back right out of it on the Grand Prix track just before going on to the Nordschleife. An M4 BMW on the racing line thought that there was a gap to go through and had to back out of it really close.
I have had it from the Oracle, thank you, Johannes, that the Manta in the Classic is indeed the Manta.
The Manta.
Mind, it is a bit like Trigger's Broom. It's had so many bits on it. It's an early start for us earlier in the UK on Saturday, but is it a 150-minute race, something like that? Just over 2 hours.
There's some great entries. They had their qualifying earlier on. A lot of mid-1970s Porsche RSRs. Rob Huff will be taking part in a 993
There was a
RSR.
Linwood 911 in there.
A what? 911,
There
sorry?
was a Linwood 911.
Okay. There's also Ralph Schall in the race defending Mercedes.
Yeah.
He's looking to come back and defend his
He wasn't
title.
the quickest. It was a 935 that was the quickest today. Number 450, I think it was, if
Okay.
you've got the entry list. I was doing something else while it was on, but I was kind of watching it in the background. It was glorious. A couple of lovely old Ascornas in there. It's the more odd stuff you expect to see the Porsches to a certain extent and some of the BMWs. But seeing the little Hillman imp going around, there's a lovely dark green Mark 1 bubble arch Capri going around, which was just glorious. You know, the one with the little oblong headlights that everybody had in, from Hillman Avengers to HB Vivas, they all had the same headlamp unit. I am going to be nerding out so much on that.
Say it quietly, but we have a clean racetrack.
Yeah, we do.
We do. We have no yellow flags, no slow zones, no code 60. So with
the opportunity.
this is it. 32 minutes left on the clock. This is now basically now or never. If the number 16 Sheriff Sport PHX crew want to get in top qualifying, they have to get the lap in. They're about halfway through the lap at the moment with Patrick Niederhauser on board, so it will be the next lap that they'll be hoping to get. Also, John, the number 64 of Dennis Olsen in the leading Ford HRT Ford Performance car, sitting in ninth, trying to get through as well.
The Steve Brown car was stopped. It's moving now on the end of a tow rope.
Right.
Thank you to Sam Pearce, who cycled through all of the onboards to find that. Actually, we've got those on a different screen, but unfortunately it's a one, I think, that doesn't have a remote to it. Why has Ben left that one with nothing on it? Switch that one off, Peter, when you get a moment, or stick it back onto something that's useful for us. I'll slap his hands tomorrow when I see him. Far side on the right, I think. I don't know, Dirty Dishes, who was just about to look up the Foxtails status. I think last year was the first year we did the Classic, wasn't it? It was a big success. And so I don't remember being quite as early last year.
It was in the morning anyway, but it was a great way to get the day going. It's a great amuse-bouche for the 24-hour race that kicks off at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday. Some amazing machinery in there. A huge entry of classics want to come by and take part in this amazing festival of motorsport. East Talent Racing, number 84 Audi, and all Austrian driver lineup, including Christian Klein, who's in that Audi R8 at the moment. They are not in top qualifying, but they're close. They're in 8th at the moment overall, and if they could find a couple of seconds, they could get themselves into top qualifying for that all Austrian crew. Beautifully painted machine with the white and green accents on it. That's and running the venerable Audi R8, winning car from last year, of course.
What Schuring's split times, Peter, in the number 44 Falcon Motorsports Porsche. He's got a little bit of traffic. Needs to... No, he's had to lift. Oh, my goodness. He's on the run to home here, and he's lost time there because he's coming now down into Flansgarden.
Which is Falbenspont, it's a little bit further on. It goes so quick that you think, oh, well, I'm out there. No, we're further on. But again, Maurice Schuring in the 44 Falcon Porsche, he doesn't have to worry. They're already in top qualifying. They don't have to worry. So they're in. They just need to not take any risk and don't wreck the car for top qualifying. That is more what Maurice Schuring needs to be thinking about.
Their headlights on the Porsche way better than the Jimmy Broadbent car we saw earlier. But I still think I'd want them slightly further up the road. I think my 968 from 1994's got better headlights than that. Although in fairness, the 992's got very, very good headlights.
I always find that when you drive a brand new car, the headlights have got very, very good. But quite a few of the teams up and down the pit lane have been working hard on that, trying the Max Cruiser team trying to get the laser lights perfect in the right place for that car. Schuring absolutely flat out all the way down through Tiergarten, through the compression, and flat all the way into the last left-hander, and then leaning on the brakes, and then loads of curb on the right, miss the curb on the left, and then run it right out to the wall. Beautiful.
As a driver who shall remain nameless once said to me, you aim for the guardrail on the left-hand side with the orange overlap, because you're going so quick there that you actually drift away from it. If you're not going quick enough, you clip it. That's what he said. It's just incredible. Out behind the Schnitzelarm.
Now we have
down on the Grand Prix circuit. Sorry, Peter, go ahead.
Unfortunately, a slow zone at the Advan Arch, which is now I've not seen it referred to as that before, but now that could be at the exit of Arenberg.
Well, that's what it used to be.
Yeah, that's where it used to be, but it's not anymore.
That's not the same sponsor on there now.
Yeah.
So where is the Advan Arch? Does it say?
Doesn't say the marshal post number. No.
Okay.
And it's a slow zone, so that's not going to help at all.
Okay, we've now got some more information about Annalena Bienkowska. Never slower than 130 through 5 marshals posts. Peak of 150 kph in a code 60. It's going to be a quiet weekend for that driver. It may have to re-qualify actually for that.
Possibly, yeah, and well, now Maurice Schuring has just gone through the slow zone just before the chicane on the Grand Prix track, so that is where the Advan Arch is then. Interesting, okay. So that shouldn't affect any of the drivers that are on a quick lap. Pardon?
On the Grand Prix circuit?
Yeah.
Coming down the hill to the last chicane?
Up the hill, yeah.
All right, just
Ish.
as you've gone down the hill and bottomed out and started to climb again before you turn.
No, the next one. The next one. The quicker one.
Okay.
So interesting.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, you see what I mean? Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
No, after that. 2 after that. The last chicane before the Nordschleife.
Yes.
Now, Dennis Olsen is now found. He's at the moment he's about halfway round the lap. He's gone through sector 6. He's in sector 7 at the moment, so he's now going through Klostertal, Caracciolo, Calasel, Hohe Acht. He's found a personal best sector in sector 6, which is the run from Exmühle to the Kesselchen. So now we're starting to see some personal best sectors come up on the time screen for the first time in a while, with 25 minutes left on the clock. Dennis Olsen could maybe potentially spring a surprise here. I mean, I think for Ford, for them to get their number 64 car, the Pro car, get it into top qualifying, that would be a great start to their life with the Mustang GT3 here at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, which is a circuit where you really have to serve your apprenticeship. Except if you're Fricadelli Ferrari and you bring a brand new car and win in the first year, which was what made it so amazing at that
How
point.
have they done in the NLS races?
Not bad, not bad. I mean,
Do you get the feeling that it's been a learning process up until now, as the Abt Red Bull Lamborghini's in the pit lane, in the box actually, the number 27 car.
driver installed though, car number 27. At the moment showing is Daniel Hunkadea, who brought that in. Interesting to see him part of the Lamborghini setup, having been an AMG driver for what feels like forever, but he's very much a free agent now. I understand he does still have an AMG contract, but it's an open contract effectively, so he drives Corvettes in the World Endurance Championship.
Marcus Winkelhock is absolutely tearing along, just came through the second carousel heading towards the Dottinger Hohe. Now on the Grand Prix circuit, a very slow moving number 16 Scherer Sport PHX Porsche with Patrick Niederhauser behind the wheel. He's staying well over to one side. Now the last time we saw a Falcon Porsche going, a Porsche going this slow, it was a Falcon Porsche.
It was this exact car in exactly the same part of the circuit. So this is
slow puncture.
Unless he's trying to find a bit of clear track, but there really isn't clear track. This is much more likely to be some sort of mechanical problem, or indeed, as you say, John, could potentially be a tyre going down. Oh, this is just a nightmare. For Scherer Sport PHX, coming into this event, they looked like they were one of the favourites, if not the favourite, after their qualifying race performance. But this race has a way of dealing very different hands, and Niederhauser going off the road, taking the tarmac run off, staying well out of the way.
Yeah.
So there's something not right at all at the wheel of this number 16 Scherer Sport PHX Porsche.
This is their chance of getting into top qualifying, the pole shootout. This is their chance of getting into that with just on 23 minutes to go. It's evaporating.
It is evaporating, yes. So if it's just a tyre, then that can be sorted very quickly, and they can get out and they can get some laps in and try and find that performance. But if it's something more sinister than that, well, that will be 2 issues in 2 sessions for that car.
Incredible, isn't it?
Oh, listen.
He's stopping.
Listen to that thud, thud, thud. Very similar sound to what we heard this morning in the first qualifying.
Apparently it was a slow puncture this
morning. Lights are off now.
That car's going to grind to a halt. I think he's got an electrical failure.
Oh,
he's not got voltage. Apparently, as I say, it was reported as a slow puncture this morning. Right now, he's struggling to keep that car moving
It wasn't a slow puncture this morning. It was the drive shaft.
Oh, really? That's what it was originally reported as by the pit team. Right, lights are back on now. So has he recycled something? Is that the same again then, Peter?
That's my worry. This might explain why they haven't showed the pace that we knew they had underneath the car.
Well, he's going to do well to get this back, but if it is a drive shaft, they're not going to get that changed in the 20 minutes that's left. But so what are they doing different from the other Porsches? Running camber at the back?
It's their first season with the car, but you're talking about the joint most successful team in history at this event. So they know their way around the car, and Porsche Motorsport will no doubt have a big interest in how this car performs. If they wouldn't put Lawrence Vanthoor in it otherwise.
That's it.
So, oh dear, that's not good. Sally Porsche is proving to be quite
temperamental?
Yes, that's the word. No such issue though for the sister car, the older car, the #1 Audi, the defending champion car, the car that Sheriff Sport PHX know better than probably the layout of their own houses.
The BMW RSR, after some technical problems, they have called it a night. And that was pretty much an hour before the end of the session. They'll be troubleshooting the problem now. And the team have told the pit reporting team that they'll give it another go tomorrow.
Interestingly, team manager for Sheriff Sport PHX getting Lawrence Vanthoor ready to put in the car. Now that's a good sign. I would wager.
Motorsport overalls rather than the Sheriff Sport PHX white and blue ones. He's in the red, white and black ones. So that was Patrick Niederhauser getting out, was it?
It was, yeah. So
no hurry.
It's a good sign that they're getting Lawrence into the car, and trying to hopefully fix it quickly.
The David Pittard Nicky team et al. Valkenhorst Aston, which is in a fabulous colourway. It reminds me of the Cool Runnings bobsleigh. It's kind of in that sort of colourway.
I'm going with that. They are Cool Runnings.
Well, it's got a nasty scuff on the left rear wheel arch, as if it's been very close, just in front of the rear wheel. Yeah, there's been contact.
Rear left. Yeah, they've had that for most of the session.
That's the second Aston that we've seen with a scuffed side this week.
So
we saw a road car the other day with the Valhalla the Valkyrie, wasn't it?
Yeah, I like that. Mattia Drudi, David Pittard, Nicky Team, and Christian Krognes are Cool Runnings.
Do you see what I mean, though?
I love it, yeah, and I will not unsee that now. I love it. At the front, with the kind of British Racing green and yellow, kind of gave me a bit of a DBR9 throwback, but Cool Runnings, we're going with that, definitely.
Right, so just hearing now that an appeal from Zorg Rennsport SRS has been accepted, so she will be allowed to race after that.
I'm astounded by that.
It'll be a stop and hold for 90 seconds at the end of lap 1.
Well, interestingly, out on the circuit, one team that are doing I do have an opportunity to get up into the transfer spots is the number 64 HRT Ford Performance, number 64. Dennis Olsen, the bespectacled Norwegian who won the Rolex 24 in the GTD Pro category in that very type of car, has just gone faster than anybody in all day through sector 6.
Was it 65 at Daytona?
Can't remember. I don't remember. He was in one of them. So he's in the 64 at the moment now.
Then tell me on the Twitter, please.
If he's definitely showing pace to be able to get up into that transfer spot. Just needs just a better clear racetrack, and that Ford is quick enough to get one of those 5 tickets to the top qualifying shootout tomorrow.
What time has he got to do? Is he in as it stands now?
No, he's not in. His best time at the moment is an 8:17.3. That you need an 8:14.599 to get in.
Right. So he needs to go faster than the Aston Martin in 5th position.
Yes.
At the moment, he needs to split the 2 Aston Martins. the 34 and the 37.
That's an amazing effort by Marek Bachmann to get that old spec Aston Martin number 37 into the top qualifying shootout for Pro Sport. That's a great effort. Even if they get bumped out now, that they've done an amazing job to get it that far up the order.
The Porsche of Scherer Sport, Sally. I love, by the way the Sally script is written in Porsche script, apart from the Y, but you never have a Y. Oh, do you? Is there a Y in Porsche script? I don't think there is, but it's got a crossover on the Y. But the SALL is all Porsche script, as if it was...
I like that. And the tattoo as well.
Yeah.
Very, very clever detail. Well, Sally needs to behave herself now. She's back out onto track with Lawrence Vantor on board. 16 minutes. That is enough to... They'll do once round the Grand Prix track, and I would imagine just get back on with it and try and get 2 laps in, and hope that they get a green flag racetrack.
That was a puncture for the 16.
Well, if that's all it is,
Platten hinten rechts en rechts. So, erreicht, I should say. Sorry for those of you who actually do speak German, but
I'll answer your question. Dennis Olsen was in the 65.
He was.
Yeah, not 64. So he's 64 just now, 65 at
I thought it was the 65. Thank you. Oh, Cayenne has a Y. Of course it does. But it doesn't have the crossover on the end of it. It's got a little bit of a... It's got the loop on the bottom of the Sally. So another, or a puncture at least, on that right rear.
Dennis
So
Olsen.
do we think the slow puncture caused the issue with the drive shaft?
Could have done. Could have done.
Because that was reported long before. I got the report of the slow puncture while that number 16 car was still coming in. So they would have known that from the PTMS, Porsche Tyre Management System.
Also, Cayman has a Y in it.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
So, last lap by for Dennis Olsen was... Now, this is interesting.
Thanks, Irish Kev.
His last lap by was an 8:17.3, but he lost 6 seconds in Sector 7 alone. So there is pace within that Mustang, but it's getting the clear lap. There is a lot of traffic out there.
Still 14 minutes to go, you know.
There is, but it's, we have 134 cars that have started this session. A lot of them are in the pits, but I would say more than half of them are on the circuit. So
I think I can see the number 16 team manager going down, speaking to some of the... I guess he's offering everybody help in the race if they pull the cars off the track in the next 15 minutes.
Yeah, or at least an unlimited weekend supply of Maltesers or confectionery of their choice.
My Malteser stacking went down well this morning. That was the thing of beauty.
That was before they started melting.
Thank you to Ryan Walker, among others, who reminded us that it was indeed the 65. And to Irish Kev for Cayman as well. How could I forget Cayman and Cayenne? The McCann was actually meant to be called the Kaylet, K-A-Y-L-E-T, is the little Cayman. It's the little Cayenne, rather.
Well, that was a good decision not to call it that. Yeah. So Lawrence Vantor, he's been the lap record holder here before, whereas his qualifying record stood for 4 years. This is where we need a bit of Vantor magic. He came 1 position away from completing history as being the first driver ever to win Daytona, Sebring and Le Mans in the same year, and he came within 1 position of it. This is where he needs to dig deep and find some of that Lawrence Vantor magic. He has put in the personal best in Sector 2, and he's pretty close to the absolute best in that sector as well. So has Vantor got enough? A lot of it went away on the first part of the Grand Prix track, but when he gets onto the Nordschleife, can he find that magic? Doesn't need to find much.
Ty Cam, Blur Fiend, who is here for the first time. Hello, Blur. Good to know that you've got here. And Spider as well, of course.
Of course, I should know that
How
too.
did you not get that?
Yeah, it didn't come to mind straight away. I didn't think of Y's and
it doesn't have the little loop on the bottom as the Sally Y has. So that's what caught me out. It didn't look the same. Well done to Tim Gray for Spider. And there was, of course, a Boxster Spider as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was.
So
Now,
on the run to home.
this is a good lap.
Oh, this is really good.
Sector 3, he is personal best in Sector 3 right now.
Get it tucked in. Down into the foxhole now. There's a set of red lights ahead of him. Stay off those curbs. You cannot hit the curbs. He's going to catch this car at the absolute inopportune moment. BMW Cup 2 car, BMW 240 rather, Cup car. So he had an R4, not a touch of the curb through there. He's on the automatic flash as he now comes through to the double left. And again, that's one of the... Is that with a Lexus?
No, BMW 3 Series.
Is that BMW?
It's around Metzgersfeld. Vantor now just coming towards the end of Sector 5. He lost a little bit in traffic as he comes now down towards the miss hit Callanhard, miss down towards Versailles. Getting track is a bit quieter than it has been. So this is Sector 5 is one of the very long sectors. Sector 5 and Sector 7, those are the two key sectors. If you can be quick through there, you're on to a quick lap.
And if he can get rid of this car just on the exit of the hairpin before he gets down to the bridge over the high street at ADAC, that was packed last night for the race evening. Well, he hasn't been able to. It's one of the Hyundais that's right ahead of him now. And he absolutely takes the nose off him.
Not really anywhere for the Hyundai to go, coming through Exmoulen now. It could still be good enough though. Could still be enough though as he comes down towards Bergwerk. Now we're going to get a look on the splits now to see where he is. He's about 4 seconds from the absolute best has gone away. It's still on though. It's still on though. If he can get a clear run now for the rest of the lap, Vantor can still lift this number 16 Sport PHX Porsche into those top 5 spots. Why is that important? Because that gets you into the qualifying shootout tomorrow. At the moment they are out of that qualifying shootout for the top 17 cars. So this is potentially one of the most important laps of the week for Lawrence Vantor as he's absolutely flat out towards Mutkov. Little breathe out the throttle in that super fast corner. And then now there's, oh no, loads of traffic coming up towards Klostertal. He's on the headlight flasher.
That's all right. Didn't lose much there. All these little half tenths and tenths. That's through Brunchen. Klostertal was it? Sorry, my apologies. A lot of people on the outside there for a change. Oh yeah, through the second carousel. And now up towards the tricky right-hander before you head onto the long Dottinger.
No, we're just coming up towards Hoa Ac now.
Oh, sorry.
Hoa Ac, we've got Wipperman to go.
Sorry, that was the first.
Yep, so we're coming down Wipperman now.
Yeah,
down the Wipperman, loads of fans down here as you come towards Espach and Brunchen. Very, very fast down here. More clear track for Vantor. He's pushing as hard as he possibly can. The fans will be loving this, watching that number.
Takes on the exit here. Oh, nothing.
Now a bit of traffic, probably just where he doesn't want it, coming in towards Brunchen now. One of the very few places with a gravel trap in the whole circuit. Certainly in the Nordschleife anyway, but luckily the slower traffic sees him.
Up onto the block paving there, underneath the trees.
Ice curve.
Yeah, looks like there's another TCR car ahead of him. Now it's all about where he catches this car. Yeah, it's another Hyundai, isn't it? Very distinctive rear lights.
Hyundai's hit the indicator. The drivers.
That was the way that the other one should have done that.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, they're all going for their own pole positions as well in class, and yeah, difficult one. The drivers have said if you don't put your indicator on, keep on the racing line. If you put your right-hand indicator, go to the right.
He has got a blue light on that car.
Interesting, yeah, and he's not in top qualifying. That's a good point.
Absolutely certain all
SP9.
All SP9
makes sense because they can all potentially be very fast.
Yeah. Now he's at the second.
Decline the carousel now, yeah, and then up towards Galton.
Mist hanging in the air there as well. Just maybe from a bit of temperature inversion. It's been so hot all day. Yeah, there is, you know.
This could be a good sector now as he comes out of Galgenkopf now onto the Dottinger hole. Is it close enough? They had 3 personal best sectors through there. Now, oh no, it's gone away too much. It's gone away far, far too much for Vantor in that 7th sector. Just too much traffic, but he will get another lap. Yes, he will get one more lap now for Vantor to try and lift this car up into the pole shootout. What Sheriff Sport PHX have got to hope here is that a lot of cars back out and come into the pits and the track clears up a little bit in this last part of the session.
Zoom out on the track then and see who's on the track that he might catch in the first quarter of the track, because that's who he's going to catch.
Lots.
He's backed right off. He's backed right off. He's absolutely going to nail the exit here. Has he still got performance in the tyres? 3 really quick sectors early on. Comes across the line. Past us now. Heading down into the tricky first corner. Not the same version of the first corner that they use in the NLS. Down through the dip and into the left-hander. Now onto the back onto the standard Grand Prix circuit. They'll go all the way down to the bottom of the hill. This is a tense time in the pit lane for this car and the rest of its team. It's got the blue flashy light on, but it needs to be, surely needs to be in the conversation for the pole sitting lap and in the sharp end of the field.
It's a critical lap here, because if Lawrence Vantor can get this car into the pole shootout, they are all of a sudden right up the front order as a favourite for the race win again, and indeed potentially for pole position. You know, as Vantor's just gone personal best through sector 1, first part of the Grand Prix track, so it's on track at the moment.
I think we've got a call.
Are we? Oh no. Nope, not by our timing screen.
Okay.
So that's good for Vantor and for Sheriff Sport PHX. Right now, Pro Sport Aston Martin, they are on that last transfer spot. They are watching through their fingers right now, going, please traffic. They're thinking in completely the opposite way. They're going, please a code 60, please some traffic to keep them in the top qualifying shootout. So there's 2 totally different emotions here. Real nerves in the Sheriff Sport garage. Likewise nerves in Pro Sport, but both wanting 2 different outcomes here. Not such a good second sector there though for Vantor.
Here's some news, is that the number 11 AMG GT3, the Hertling hire car, because of an indiscretion in a code 60, that Schnitzelau Mercedes will start from the back of the first starting group. And also, same for the McLaren Artura Trophy Evo. That was pit lane speeding. And the 677 M240 iRacing Cup driving to fast under code 60, serving a drive-through penalty at the end of the first lap. And whichever the drivers it was there will get a DMSB penalty point. Massive little twitch there as Vantor came through absolutely flat through Flugplatz, and the rear of the car just wiggled. Now coming out towards Schwedenkreuz is one of the biggest, gutsiest corners anywhere on the circuit, all the way over the crest, and then hard on the brakes for Arenberg. Went absolute best in sector 3 and personal best in sector 2, so Vantor is on a lap here. He is on a lap to get into top qualifying. He's got traffic down at the bottom of the foxhole, at least a couple or 3 cars, and Peter should be able to tell us who they are, as they are, well, he's right with them now. Once he gets past them though, he's got them both really nicely in the first of the right-handers going up the hill where you go down. Gear, one more gear in the Adenauer Forest. It was a Golf TCR was one of them, and they stayed way off the racing line. They've really helped them now towards Metzgerfeld. It's clear here now. There was a lot of work going on the right-hand side earlier on, using the uphill section to help tuck the car into the left, and then the right-hander now over the brow. Callan-Hart down through the right-hander. How's his time going at the moment, Peter? It's looking good. It's looking good, and it's got clear track from right now. Pretty much, he's got it's hard to say exactly, put a number on it, but there's going to have clear lap for a little bit. There is then a little pocket of traffic that he probably will reach towards the end of the lap. The siphon down that banked hairpin out through the right, then looking for the road on the right-hand side as your braking point before the bridge. There it is, turns in, drift out to the red and white curve, just touched it there. There used to be a change of surface which helped you on the turning, but it's not there now. He's having to do it from muscle memory, coming up to the Lauda corner before he hits the very important right-hander at Bergwerk. Lovely late turn in there. And now the consecutive left-hand corners, they get progressively tighter. Put as little steering lock in as you can. But you've got to nail the last one because there's absolutely no runoff on the right-hand side. Here he is, turns it in now. Wow, the front end of that Porsche is looking good. Much steeper here than it looks from the car. Up towards the mud curve, you cannot take any of the curbs here. It would be absolutely disastrous and it upsets the car. Fantastic stuff from Vantur. I think he took a little bit of the grass on the right-hand side. Now towards the left-hander at the bottom of the hill, where the old test hill was straight ahead, and he's climbing towards the carousel, the Caracciola carousel, aimed at the end of the AMG board there in the marshal's post. Patience, 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 and then pop out of the carousel like a cork out of the bottle.
Up towards Hoak then, and traffic-wise, it's still not bad. I think he's going to come across them just around Brunchen time. The next load of traffic is just coming through Wipperman. So in terms of clear track, I don't think Lawrence Vantur could have asked for much more. But is he going to be able to get a clear lap through? No, there is going to be traffic, but how quickly can he get by? That is the question. He's now going to have stuff. He's now going to have traffic coming towards him as he heads down the hill now, up through the curbs. It's such a roller coaster ride through Wipperman and then now towards Esbach and Brunken, past all the fans. They are getting a late night show here at the Nürburgring.
He's still not had to slow down, and he's doing a really good job of keeping it up here through Brunchen up to Eisbach now. So cold because that's where it stays nasty under the trees. He used a lot of curve there. This is the fast part. You've got to know where you are on the circuit. There's lights out in the distance, but it is in the distance. And if he catches this in the right place through Flansgaard and through the Stefan Beloff S, which I think he's going to do perfectly well. Oh, he gets cut off just slightly, had to hit the brakes. That's cost him time there.
But the Golf is actually, believe it or not, quite a quick car in a straight line. Those TCR Golfs are quick, particularly the ones in the alternatively fuel class. But up now towards the Kleine carousel comes Vantur sector-wise. Oh, this is going to be the telling. We'll get a next split coming out of Galgenkopf now as he comes up the hill towards the crucial right-hander onto the Dottinger Hohe. Is this enough for Vantur? It's last chance saloon. The clock is down to 0.
So this is it. There will be no further chance for the number 16 car. And Lawrence Vantur with 4 personal best, 1 outright best in the sector so far, and now it is the run to the checkered flag and potentially a spot in top qualifying tomorrow, which you'll see and hear live on the Radio Show Limited network of channels, on RS1 and of course on the world feed, streaming around the world. Oh my goodness, he's got traffic, but he's going to get away with it. He's going to get away with this. That was a much later braking as he came through Tiergarten, and now on the front stretch. It is only the stopwatch that will tell us now. He comes through and passes us now as he goes across the line, and once his time, he goes to 3rd place at 8:12.103, and he's in, and that means the Aston Martin is out.
That is just pure cinema. Just Lawrence Vantur up against the cosh. A driver who works so hard at his personal fitness, his determination to his craft. He's been with the Porsche brand for so many years now, won so many big races, and yet when he gets put in a corner, when he had to deliver for the team, a team he's never driven before. In fact, it's a team he's been racing against for so many years, and he gets them into top qualifying. That is why Lawrence Vantur is a Porsche Works driver.
The Vantor boys have been qualifying wizards this
Yes,
year.
they have.
Drees was unbeaten for a time, took 4 out of the first 5 in IMSA, and he's not had it all his own way recently in the BMW side of things, but that was a pressure. That's not pole position. We haven't set pole position yet, but he puts himself in with a chance of pole position, which he would not have had without that lap. And I tell you what, I reckon, I'm not sure there was a 10 there, but I think he lost a second behind the Gulf, because he had to come right out.
At least. But that was gritty. That was seriously gritty. But you have to spare a thought for Pro Sport Racing, a small independent team with an old spec Aston Martin. They miss out. They miss out. Now, this is cruel. They miss out by from the newer Aston Martin, the 34 of Valkenhorst, by a 0.107 of a second on a 25-kilometre lap. They've just missed out on top qualifying, but nevertheless, that is a highly commendable effort from Pro Sport Aston Martin and Marek Bachmann, who set that lap.
Don't forget, there's more qualifying to come tomorrow for everybody. We are not locked in at this point. So SP9 quickest, the defending champions, share a sport. Chris Haase in that car, the Audi. Then the Manthey 911 Porsche for SP9 Pro. For Pro-Am, HRT Ford Performance in the 63 car was the quickest in 13th overall. Cup 2 is the Loesch Motorsport by Black Falcon Porsche. Is that Dylan Pereira who set the time in that car? Yes, it was. Max Cruiser Racing with the AT2 top time for the 644 car. SP Pro Nordic Racing. Let's see if we can pick up what's being said here down in the pit lane.
An encouraging pat on the leg for Lawrence Vantor, but I think it'll be high fives all round. One of the very top drivers in the world.
He's just got out of there and said, basically, the way he's walked out of that, he said, well, that's what I do.
There's almost an element as well as they're going, why were we in that position in the first place?
Yes.
There's that air of a body language about it.
We said Max Cruiser Racing, they've got a second provisional pole in the AT3. Johan Christofferson, excuse me. STI in 48th position. It's a pretty small class for the SP14. TCR pole position, Mark Bassing, provisional pole. Another qualifying session for them tomorrow in the 8:30. He is a serial pole sitter in that class. WNS Motorsport have their 962 Cup 3 car in 52nd, in 54th, 111. SR Motorsport by Schnitzelau. That is the GT4 provisional pole sitter. BSL Racing Team in SP7. Toyota Gazoo Rookie Racing SP2T. Is it just the 2 cars in that class? The 2 GR Yaris's?
I think so.
Yeah. Hyundai Motorsport Target Competition in SP3T. And that's the 303. Adrenaline Motorsport Manhattan, Wales has the 240i provisional pole with their 652 car. The V6 is the 414. Nordic Racing's second best time of the night. VT2 rear drive with the 520. The front is the 480. Or team names the next. Oh, that's the Dupree Racing. The Dupree Racing S3. And in V5, it is the 440 in the BMW 325i class. It's the 100. Kelvin van der Linde
may well be getting a spot here.
Yeah,
maybe. This potentially could lift Kelvin van der Linde and the Rover BMW, the only BMW. Yeah. Too far off. 7 seconds off at the last split. There was a potential. Just thinking there, that the Rover team looking very closely at the screens and just hasn't quite come together for Kelvin van der Linde there. They look like they might well. Will they improve on their time? No. It looked like there might have been opportunity, but van der Linde going to be no top qualifying for Rover BMW. They're going to start at least 18th. So Rover BMW, former winners, and of course BMW, the pole sitting car last year, not quite as rosy this time, but it's all about the race for them. That's been part of the preparation.
Well, he made some time back for Kelvin van der Linde in that last segment, but an 8:17 was 3 seconds away from where he needed to be. So right now, Peter, we can tell you the 5 transferring into the top qualifying, the pole shootout. Just 1 round of that. That is different from last year. So just the 1 opportunity. The overall qualifications are one thing, but it's more importantly the teams that have transferred.
Well, and it was all changed in that session too, because Rover BMW and Dynamic Porsche coming into this session they've not improved, they've not done enough, and the cars that have done enough are the number 16 Scherer Sport car and indeed the 28 Lamborghini. So that gets both of the top Lamborghinis in. So tomorrow we will see a qualifying shootout between Manthey Porsche, both Falcon Porsches, the Duta Audi, both AMG Team Get Speed cars, the Realize Kondo Rinaldi Ferrari, all 3 of the Trinity Solutions Volkenhorst Aston Martins, all 3 of them, the 48 Black Falcon Porsche, the 11 Snickschalm Motorsport AMG.
No, you won't see that one. That's been put to the back of the start.
No, that's interesting. It will go to the back. So does that then open a spot up in top qualifying?
That's a very good question.
That we'll find out in the morning. And there will be a Ford in, the 65 HRT Ford Performance car that qualified through its results and times earlier in the season. Joined by the Scherer Sport PHX Audi,
which was fastest of all tonight.
Yes, with an 8:10.580. That's a qualifying lap, big time.
That was Chris Haase very early on, wasn't
Amazing.
it?
Just like they did in the first session. So that number 1 Audi, the defending champion, has a lot of speed.
Yeah.
So then there's both apt Lamborghinis are in there, the 16 Scherer Sport Porsche with that amazing lap from Lawrence Vantor, and then rounding out that 5-car transfer spot group is the 34 Volkenhorst Aston Martin.
Right, so that was, as you said, all of those guys getting in. This is not the grid set. There will be another qualifying session for everybody who's not in the top shootout. But obviously, we will be bringing you... I say obviously, I shouldn't say that. You might not know. We will be bringing you all of the action from tomorrow's sessions. And you won't want to miss any of it, because as you saw there, these times can pop up at any spot. And let's not forget, Peter, for those who aren't in the top qualifying, those qualifying sessions tomorrow is their last chance to improve.
And it could be, the time to get a clear lap as well, because there could be other teams that have got their grid spot done, or they feel they've done the best and they just park up and save the car. So, but if you're needing to get a lap time in, maybe you'll get we'll get a dash for it. So we'll be looking more at the other classes tomorrow.
So that brings us to the end of a terrific Thursday. The holiday weekend starts right here, as does the 53rd running of the ADAC Ravenol 24 Hours of the Nürburgring. 3rd place then with that lap of the gods from Lawrence Vantor. 2nd place for Luca Engslers in that satin black number 28 Lamborghini. But Christopher Haase with an incredible lap earlier on of an 8:10.580, a full second quicker than Engstler and a 1.5 seconds quicker than Vantor, when the track was not, it has to be said, at its best in terms of the temperature, or indeed the rubber. Qualified then, the number 1, as we mentioned, the Scherer Sport, the Team Get Speed Mercedes number 17, Jutta Racing's Audi, Red Bull Team Apt, and the Lamborghini the second of the SR Motorsport by Schnitzelheim, the number 11 car. That car showing in the top qualifying right there, but that car's got a penalty for a problem with, I can't remember if it was speeding in the pit lane.
So
Thanks very much for those of you who are with us tonight. Let's reconvene tomorrow. We'll leave you with some highlights.